In the depths of ancient China, over 2,000 years ago, a mysterious sage sat by a river, watching water flow effortlessly around stones. As he observed this simple scene, he uncovered one of humanity's most profound truths, a truth so powerful, so transformative, that it would guide millions toward inner peace and wisdom for millennia to come. Tonight, you're about to discover this same ancient secret. Welcome, fellow seeker, to this journey into the heart of Taoism. As you settle into comfort, allow your breathing to find its natural rhythm. Feel the gentle pull of gravity supporting your body, the soft embrace of this moment welcoming you home. The day's tensions begin to dissolve as we enter together into timeless souls across the ages. The word Tao whispers of mystery. It means the way, but this is no ordinary path carved by human hands. The Tao is the natural way of the universe itself, the invisible current that flows beneath all existence, the gentle force that guides stars in their courses and seasons in their turning. It is both the source from which all things emerge and the destination to which all things return. Picture yourself standing in a moonlit forest, where ancient trees reach toward stars that have witnessed the rise and fall of empires. Here, in this sacred silence, you can almost feel it. The Tao moves through everything like breath through sleeping lungs, like music through the spaces between notes. It is the pause that makes poetry possible, the silence that gives sound its meaning, the stillness from which all movement springs. The sages who first perceived this cosmic rhythm lived in a time of great upheaval, when kingdoms warred and philosophers debated. Yet these wise ones looked beyond the surface chaos to discover something eternal and unchanging. They saw that beneath the drama of human striving, beneath the endless cycle of desire and disappointment, there flows a deeper current of perfect harmony. This ancient wisdom teaches us that the Tao is not a deity to worship or a philosophy to memorize. It is more like the vast ocean in which we swim, so fundamental to our existence that we rarely notice it. Just as fish might never think about water until they are removed from it, we live and breathe within the Tao while often remaining unconscious of its presence. The Tao is the invisible thread weaving through all existence, connecting mountain peaks to valley depths, linking your heartbeat to the rhythm of distant stars. It guides the salmon upstream and the leaves in their autumn dance. It whispers in the wind and sings in the silence between raindrops. Most remarkably, it flows through you at this very moment, as natural as your breathing, as essential as your pulse. Consider how your breath moves without your conscious direction. You do not wake each morning and decide to breathe, calculating each inhalation and exhalation. Your lungs expand and contract in perfect harmony with your body's needs, following an intelligence deeper than thought. This is the Tao expressing itself through you, the cosmic rhythm playing your life like a beautiful song. The ancient Taoists discovered that when we align ourselves with this natural flow, resistance melts away. Life becomes less of a battle against opposing forces and more of a gentle dance with the rhythms of existence. They watched water carve grand canyons through solid rock, not by force, but through patient persistence and perfect timing. They observed how the softest things in the world overcome the hardest, how emptiness gives form its meaning, how weakness often contains the seeds of true strength. In the ancient text known as the Tao Te Ching, written by the legendary sage Lao Tzu, we find these mysterious words. The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. This points to a profound truth. The deepest realities of existence cannot be captured in words, cannot be grasped by the thinking mind alone. They must be experienced, felt, lived. Like trying to describe the taste of water to someone who has never drunk, the Tao reveals itself not through explanation but through direct knowing. Yet words can serve as gentle fingers pointing toward the moon, helping us turn our attention toward what lies beyond language. Tonight, these words are your companions on a journey into silence, into the spaces between thoughts where the Tao can be felt rather than understood. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast lake at dawn, its surface perfectly still, reflecting the sky so completely that you cannot tell where water ends and heaven begins. This is what the Taoists called the original nature, the pure awareness that exists before thoughts create ripples on the mind's surface. In this stillness, you discover that you are not separate from the Tao. You are an expression of it, a unique note in its infinite symphony. The Tao is present in the smallest dewdrop and the largest galaxy, in moments of joy and seasons of sorrow, in the bustling energy of creation and the profound peace of dissolution. It does not judge these experiences as good or bad, right or wrong. It simply allows them to unfold in their natural rhythm, like waves rising and falling on an endless ocean. As you rest here now, notice how thoughts arise and pass away, like clouds drifting across an empty sky. The sky remains unchanged, spacious and clear, no matter what weather patterns move through it. This sky-like awareness is your connection to the Tao, the unchanging witness that remains present through all of life's changes. The ancient masters spoke of the Tao as both infinitely far away and intimately close, as vast as the universe and as near as your next breath. They described it as the mother of all things, not because it gives birth in the way we usually understand, but because it is the fertile emptiness from which all possibilities emerge. Like the hollow of a bowl that makes it useful, or the silence between musical notes that creates melody, the Tao is the creative emptiness that gives meaning to form. In your daily life, you have likely experienced moments when everything seemed to flow effortlessly, perhaps while absorbed in a creative task, or walking in nature, or simply sitting quietly. You felt a sense of perfect rightness, as if you were exactly where you were meant to be. These glimpses are your direct contact with the Tao, moments when the veil of separation dissolves and you remember your natural place in the cosmic dance. The Taoists taught that we can cultivate this alignment not through forcing or striving, but through what they called Wu Wei, often translated as non-doing or effortless action. This doesn't mean becoming passive or lazy. Rather, it means learning to act in harmony with natural forces, like a skilled sailor who doesn't fight the wind but uses it to reach their destination. Picture a master gardener tending their plants. They don't pull on the stems to make them grow faster or paint the leaves to make them greener. Instead, they provide the right conditions: good soil, adequate water, appropriate light. Then they trust the natural intelligence within each seed to unfold in its own perfect timing. This is Wu Wei in action, working with the Tao rather than against it. As we journey deeper into Taoist wisdom tonight, we'll explore how this ancient understanding can bring peace to your restless mind and ease to your weary heart. We'll discover how the softest approach often proves most effective, how yielding can be a form of strength, and how emptiness contains infinite potential. The Tao asks nothing of you except that you be yourself, your most natural and authentic self. It doesn't require you to believe anything or follow any particular path. Like sunlight that shines equally on all things without preference, the Tao is already present in your life, waiting patiently to be recognized. In the gentle rhythm of your breathing, in the steady beating of your heart, in the quiet awareness that witnesses your thoughts, the Tao expresses itself through you. You are not separate from this cosmic flow. You are a wave in its ocean, a note in its endless song, a temporary but perfect expression of its eternal nature. Tonight, as we explore these ancient teachings together, allow yourself to relax into this deeper understanding. Let the wisdom of the ages wash over you like warm water, dissolving the tensions and concerns that have accumulated during your day. Trust in the natural intelligence that breathes your breath and beats your heart. Rest in the knowing that you are held, supported, and guided by forces far wiser and more loving than your small mind can comprehend. The Tao is your oldest friend and your truest nature. It has been with you since your first breath and will remain with you beyond your last. In recognizing this eternal companion, you discover that you have never truly been alone, never truly been separate from the source of all peace and wisdom. As we continue this journey together, feel yourself sinking deeper into trust, deeper into the natural flow that carries all things toward their perfect destination. Let go of trying to understand with your mind alone. Instead, allow your heart to open to the mystery, your body to relax into the current, your spirit to remember its connection to the infinite Tao that moves through all things. The ancient way is opening before you now, not as a path to walk, but as a recognition of where you already are. Welcome home to the Tao, dear traveler. Welcome home to yourself. Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching. In the mists of ancient China, sometime around the 6th century before the Common Era, there lived a man whose very existence has become the stuff of legend. Some say he was born with white hair, aged by wisdom even in his mother's womb. Others whisper that he lived for centuries, watching dynasties rise and fall like seasons. His name was Lao Tzu, which simply means old master, and from his profound contemplations emerged one of humanity's most treasured spiritual texts. As you settle deeper into comfort, imagine the world as it was over 2.5 millennia ago. In the ancient Chinese kingdom, philosophers walked dusty roads between warring states, seeking audiences with kings and princes, offering advice on governance and strategy. Yet Lao Tzu walked a different path entirely, one that led not to palace halls but to the quiet spaces where eternal wisdom whispers its secrets. Legend tells us that Lao Tzu served as keeper of the royal archives, a guardian of ancient knowledge and forgotten wisdom. Day after day, he tended to scrolls and records, watching the endless cycle of human ambition, the rise and fall of empires, the eternal dance of power and politics. But unlike others who might have grown cynical from such observations, Lao Tzu perceived something deeper, something that remained constant beneath all the surface changes. Picture him in his later years, perhaps sitting in his garden as dawn breaks over distant mountains. His hair, white as mountain snow, catches the early light. His eyes, deep pools of knowing, reflect not the weight of accumulated knowledge, but the lightness of profound understanding. After decades of observing human nature and cosmic patterns, he had discovered the secret thread that weaves through all existence. As the stories go, when Lao Tzu reached the end of his earthly service, he chose to leave civilization behind. Mounting a water buffalo, he set out toward the western borders of China, seeking the solitude of distant mountains, where he could merge completely with the Tao he had studied so long. But at the border crossing, a guard named Yin Jie recognized the departing sage and made a request that would change the world forever. "Master," the guard pleaded, "you carry wisdom that could benefit countless generations. Please, before you pass beyond our reach, leave us some record of what you have learned." Moved by this sincere request, Lao Tzu spent 3 days in quiet contemplation, then set brush to paper and composed the text we now know as the Tao Te Ching. In just 81 brief chapters, this slender volume captures the essence of cosmic wisdom. The title itself reveals its dual nature. Tao, meaning the way, Te, meaning virtue or power, and Ching, meaning classic or scripture. Together they form the classic of the way and its power, a guide not to worldly success but to the kind of spiritual strength that flows from perfect alignment with the natural order. Let us drift now into the opening words of this ancient masterpiece, words that have puzzled and illuminated seekers for thousands of years. The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. Nameless, it is the source of heaven and earth. Named, it becomes the mother of all things. Feel how these words invite you beyond the realm of ordinary thinking. Lao Tzu begins by acknowledging a fundamental limitation. The deepest truths cannot be captured in language, cannot be grasped by the conceptual mind. Like trying to hold moonlight in your hands or capture wind in a jar, the essence of the Tao slips through the nets of words and definition. Yet this is not a teaching of despair, but of liberation. By recognizing what cannot be spoken, we begin to appreciate what can be directly experienced. The unnamed Tao is the fertile void from which all things emerge, the pregnant silence that gives birth to sound, the perfect emptiness that makes fullness possible. Imagine yourself as a child again, lying on your back in summer grass, gazing up at clouds drifting across an infinite blue sky. You didn't need words to appreciate that vastness, didn't require explanations to feel connected to something greater than yourself. This direct, wordless knowing is what Lao Tzu points us toward throughout his mysterious verses. In the second chapter, he offers us another profound teaching. When people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. Therefore, being and non-being produce each other. Difficult and easy support each other. Long and short define each other. Here the old master reveals one of the Tao's fundamental principles, the interdependence of all apparent opposites. In your daily life, you have surely experienced this truth. A moment of great joy becomes precious, partly because you have known sorrow. The sweetness of rest emerges from the experience of weariness. The light of dawn gains its beauty from the darkness it dispels. Lao Tzu saw that our suffering often comes from trying to have one side of life without the other, from grasping after permanent pleasure while rejecting all difficulty. But the Tao teaches us that these polarities are like two sides of a single coin, inseparable aspects of one unified whole. As you rest here now, notice how your breath naturally demonstrates this principle. Each inhalation flows seamlessly into exhalation. Each exhalation creates space for the next breath. You don't try to hold on to the in-breath or push away the out-breath. You simply allow the natural rhythm to unfold, trusting in the wisdom of your body's intelligence. In the third chapter, Lao Tzu offers guidance for those who would lead others, but his words apply equally to the art of leading your own life. The sage does not display himself, therefore he is illuminated. He does not define himself, therefore he is distinct. He does not boast of his work, therefore he endures. He does not compete, therefore no one in the world can compete with him. This is the way of humility, one of the three treasures that Lao Tzu prizes above all else. True strength, he teaches, comes not from aggressive assertion, but from gentle receptivity. Like water that flows around obstacles rather than crashing against them, the humble person accomplishes their goals without creating resistance or conflict. Think of the most impressive people you have known in your life. Likely, they possessed a quality of quiet confidence, an ability to be fully present without needing to prove themselves. They listened more than they spoke, included rather than excluded, lifted others up rather than pushing them down. This is humility in action, the kind of strength that comes from being aligned with the Tao's natural flow. The fourth chapter presents us with one of the Tao Te Ching's most beautiful images. The Tao is like a well, used but never used up. It is like the eternal void, filled with infinite possibilities. It blunts the sharp, unties the knotted, softens the glare, settles the dust. Here we glimpse the inexhaustible nature of spiritual wisdom. Unlike material resources that diminish when shared, the Tao grows stronger through use. Like a spring that flows more abundantly when its waters are channeled, the more we align with the Tao, the more its blessings multiply in our lives and in the world around us. The image of settling dust speaks particularly to our hurried age. In Lao Tzu's time, as in ours, the world was full of agitation and conflict, the air thick with the dust of human striving. But the Tao has the power to settle this dust, to bring clarity where there was confusion, peace where there was turmoil. As you sink deeper into relaxation now, feel this settling happening within you, the dust of the day's concerns slowly settling into the clear waters of present moment awareness. Lao Tzu returns again and again to the theme of emptiness as the source of usefulness. In the 11th chapter he writes, 30 spokes share the wheel's hub, but it is the center hole that makes it useful. Clay is formed into a vessel, but it is the emptiness inside that makes it useful. Doors and windows are cut for a room, but it is the inner space that makes it useful. This teaching invites us to appreciate the fertile void, the pregnant silence, the spacious awareness that forms the backdrop of all experience. In meditation, we discover that thoughts arise and pass away within a vast space of awareness that remains untouched by their coming and going. This space is like the hub of the wheel, the hollow of the bowl, the silence between musical notes that makes melody possible. As you rest here, become aware of the space around your thoughts, the gaps between mental activities, the quiet presence that witnesses all experience without being disturbed by it. This is your connection to the eternal Tao, the unchanging essence that remains constant through all of life's changes. The 13th chapter offers comfort for those who struggle with anxiety about their place in the world. The reason I have great trouble is that I have a body. When I no longer have a body, what trouble have I? But Lao Tzu is not advocating escape from physical existence. Rather, he's pointing to the peace that comes from identifying with something larger than our temporary form. You are more than your body, more than your thoughts, more than your temporary circumstances. You are an eternal expression of the Tao itself, temporarily individualized but never truly separate from the source. Understanding this brings tremendous freedom, the ability to engage fully with life while holding it all lightly. In the 15th chapter, Lao Tzu paints a portrait of the ancient masters. The ancient masters were profound and subtle. Their wisdom was unfathomable. Since it is unfathomable, I can only describe their appearance: watchful, like men crossing a winter stream; alert, like men aware of danger; simple, like uncarved blocks of wood; hollow, like caves. These masters embodied the three treasures that Lao Tzu cherished most: compassion, frugality, and humility. They moved through the world like skilled dancers, responsive to each moment's requirements, but never losing their center. Their simplicity was not that of ignorance, but of refined understanding, like master artists who can express profound truths with a few perfect brushstrokes. The quality of being like uncarved blocks of wood points to a return to original nature, to the pristine awareness that exists before social conditioning shapes us into artificial forms. In the quiet of this moment, you can feel that original nature stirring within you, the simple presence that existed before you learned who you were supposed to be. As we approach the heart of the Tao Te Ching, we encounter its most famous paradox in the 17th chapter. The best leaders are those whose existence the people are barely aware of. The next best are those who are loved and praised. Next come those who are feared. The worst are those who are despised. This teaching applies not only to external leadership, but to the art of leading your own life. The most effective approach is often the gentlest one, the path that works with natural forces rather than against them. Like a gardener who provides the right conditions and then trusts plants to grow, we can learn to create supportive conditions for our own flourishing while avoiding the exhaustion that comes from trying to force outcomes. Lao Tzu's wisdom about water appears throughout the Tao Te Ching, but perhaps nowhere more beautifully than in the 78th chapter. Under heaven, nothing is more soft and yielding than water. Yet for overcoming the hard and strong, nothing can surpass it. This is because there is nothing that can substitute for it. Water teaches us the power of persistence without aggression, of flexibility without weakness. It always seeks the lowest places, yet in time it carves the deepest canyons. It yields to every obstacle, yet ultimately overcomes all resistance. In your own life, you can embody this water-like quality, meeting challenges with fluid grace rather than rigid opposition. The concept of wu wei, or effortless action, flows through many chapters, but perhaps finds its clearest expression in the 37th. The Tao never does anything, yet nothing is left undone. If leaders could hold to this, all things would naturally transform. This doesn't advocate passivity, but rather a kind of intelligent responsiveness, acting in harmony with natural timing and flow. Like a surfer who doesn't create the waves but skillfully rides their power, we can learn to align our efforts with the Tao's natural movement. As you breathe softly now, notice how this principle operates in your body. Your heart beats without your conscious effort, your cells regenerate while you sleep, your immune system works tirelessly to maintain your health. All of this happens through Wu Wei, effortless action in perfect harmony with natural law. Lao Tzu's teachings on simplicity permeate the text, but find particularly beautiful expression in the 19th chapter. Give up sainthood, renounce wisdom, and it will be 100 times better for everyone. Give up kindness, renounce morality, and people will rediscover affection and love. This apparent contradiction points to the difference between artificial virtue and natural goodness. When we try too hard to be good, we often create strain and pretense. But when we simply be ourselves, aligned with our deepest nature, genuine compassion and wisdom flow effortlessly. The Tao Te Ching concludes with the 80 Circus chapter, a perfect summation of Taoist principles. True words are not eloquent. Eloquent words are not true. The wise are not learned. The learned are not wise. The good person does not accumulate. The more he helps others, the more he benefits himself. The more he gives to others, the more he gets himself. Here we see the complete inversion of worldly logic. In the Tao's economy, giving creates abundance. Emptying leads to fullness, and losing oneself in service to others results in finding one's truest self. This is not mere idealism, but a description of how the universe actually operates when we align with its fundamental nature. Lao Tzu himself, having gifted the world with these profound teachings, disappeared into the western mountains, becoming one with the Tao he had described so eloquently. Some say he achieved physical immortality, others that he simply merged with the eternal source from which he had never really been separate. But his words remain, like light from distant stars, continuing to illuminate the way for seekers across cultures and centuries. In the gentle rhythm of these ancient teachings, countless souls have found refuge from the storms of existence, guidance through the maze of worldly confusion, and most precious of all, recognition of their own inherent wisdom and peace. As you rest in this moment, you carry within you the same essence that inspired Lao Tzu's profound insights. The Tao that moved him to write moves through you as well. The wisdom he perceived in the natural world is available to you in each breath, each heartbeat, each moment of quiet awareness. Let these ancient words settle into your consciousness like seeds into fertile earth. They ask nothing of you but recognition, require no effort but attention. In the simplicity of just being present, in the humility of not knowing, in the balance of accepting what is while remaining open to what might be, you embody the very teachings that have guided seekers toward peace for over 2,000 years. The Old Master's gift lives on in you, dear listener, as natural as breathing, as close as your own heartbeat, as eternal as the Tao itself. Wu Wei, the art of effortless action. Deep in the mountains of ancient China, a Taoist master sat watching a waterfall cascade down weathered rocks. For hours he observed how the water never struggled, never forced its way, yet carved channels through solid stone that would endure for centuries. In that moment of quiet contemplation, he glimpsed one of the Tao's most profound secrets, the power of Wu Wei, the art of effortless action that accomplishes everything by doing nothing. As you settle more deeply into this peaceful moment, allow your breathing to find its own natural rhythm. Notice how your lungs expand and contract without your conscious direction, how your heart beats steadily without your management, how countless processes sustain your life through a wisdom far beyond your thinking mind. This is Wu Wei in its purest form, the intelligent action that flows from perfect alignment with natural law. The term Wu Wei literally translates as non-doing or non-action, but this translation often misleads Western minds, trained to believe that all accomplishment requires effort and struggle. Wu Wei is not about becoming passive or lazy. Rather, it represents a revolutionary approach to living that works with the current of existence rather than against it, achieving maximum results through minimum force. Picture yourself swimming in a gentle river on a warm summer day. If you fight against the current, you quickly become exhausted, making little progress despite tremendous effort. But if you learn to work with the water's natural flow, allowing it to carry you while making small adjustments to guide your direction, you can travel great distances with surprising ease. This is the essence of Wu Wei, intelligent cooperation with the forces that already exist rather than futile opposition to them. The ancient Taoists observed this principle operating throughout the natural world. They watched how trees bend with the wind rather than breaking in rigid resistance. They saw how rivers flow around obstacles rather than wearing themselves out in direct confrontation. They noticed how seeds germinate in their own perfect timing, neither hurrying nor delaying their emergence into the light. In human affairs, Wu Wei manifests as the wisdom to know when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to hold on and when to let go. It is the skill of a master negotiator who achieves agreement not through force but through understanding, the grace of a skilled dancer who moves in perfect harmony with the music rather than imposing arbitrary steps upon it. Consider the story of the master archer who could split an arrow with another arrow from 100 paces. When asked for the secret of his skill, he replied, "I do not shoot the arrow, I become one with the bow, one with the target, one with the wind itself. The arrow shoots itself through me." This is Wu Wei in action, perfect accomplishment through complete surrender to the natural flow of the moment. As you rest here now, feel how this principle operates in your own body. Your immune system works tirelessly to maintain your health, yet you are not consciously directing each white blood cell to its target. Your digestive system processes your food, extracting nutrients and eliminating waste, all without your micromanagement. Your nervous system coordinates millions of functions simultaneously through an intelligence that operates far below the threshold of conscious thought. This same intelligence that manages your physical body can guide your choices and actions in daily life, if only you learn to trust it. Wu Wei is about tapping into this deeper wisdom, allowing your responses to arise from the same source that beats your heart and grows your hair. The paradox of Wu Wei becomes apparent when we examine its results. Those who practice effortless action often accomplish more than those who struggle and strain. The gentle teacher whose students learn more readily than those subjected to harsh discipline. The leader whose organization runs smoothly because they create conditions for others to excel rather than trying to control every detail. The parent whose children flourish because they provide loving guidance without suffocating oversight. In ancient times, there lived a cook who served the emperor. This cook was renowned not for elaborate recipes or exotic ingredients, but for his extraordinary skill with a simple knife. When preparing meat, he moved with such fluid grace that onlookers believed they were watching a dance rather than butchery. The blade seemed to find its own way through joints and sinews, never dulling, never meeting resistance. When asked about his technique, the cook explained, "I follow the natural structure of the meat. My knife finds the spaces between bones, the hollows between muscles. It never cuts against the grain or forces its way through solid matter. Because I work with nature rather than against it, my blade stays sharp for years, and my work becomes effortless." This story illustrates how Wu Wei transforms even mundane tasks into expressions of natural harmony. When we align our actions with the inherent patterns of reality, resistance dissolves, and what once seemed difficult becomes surprisingly simple. In your own life, you have surely experienced moments of Wu Wei, even if you didn't recognize them by that name. Perhaps while absorbed in a creative project, you entered a state where ideas flowed effortlessly, where your hands moved with surprising skill, where time seemed to disappear. Or maybe during a meaningful conversation, you found yourself speaking words of unexpected wisdom, offering exactly what the other person needed to hear without consciously planning your response. These experiences offer glimpses of your natural state, when the ego steps aside and allows deeper intelligence to express itself. Wu Wei is about cultivating this alignment consistently, learning to trust the wisdom that flows through you when you're not trying to force outcomes. The sage Zhuangzi, one of Taoism's greatest teachers, told the story of a man who was so ugly that men would flee at the sight of him, yet women found him irresistibly attractive. When asked why, they said, "He moves through the world without any pretense, completely comfortable with himself. His acceptance of his nature is so complete that we forget his appearance and see only his beautiful essence." This story reveals another dimension of Wu Wei, the effortless charisma that emerges when someone is completely aligned with their authentic nature. When we stop trying to be someone we're not, stop struggling to impress or manipulate others, a natural magnetism emerges that is far more powerful than any artificial charm. Think of the people you most enjoy being around. Likely, they possess this quality of naturalness, of being completely comfortable in their own skin. They don't work hard to be interesting or impressive. Their presence is refreshing precisely because they're not trying to be anything other than themselves. Wu Wei in relationships means responding to others from a place of genuine presence rather than calculating what will create the best impression. It means listening so completely that your response arises spontaneously from understanding rather than from pre-planned agendas. It means allowing conversations to unfold organically rather than steering them toward predetermined outcomes. In the realm of creativity, Wu Wei manifests as the artist who allows inspiration to flow through them rather than forcing their will upon the canvas, the musician who plays from the heart rather than merely executing technical exercises, the writer whose words seem to write themselves, emerging from a source deeper than conscious intention. This doesn't mean abandoning skill or preparation. The master painter has spent years learning technique, but in the moment of creation they set aside conscious control and allow their training to express itself naturally. The accomplished musician practices scales and exercises, but during performance they surrender to the music itself, becoming its voice rather than its master. As you breathe softly in this moment, notice how each breath demonstrates Wu Wei perfectly. You don't need to plan each inhalation or schedule each exhalation. Your body knows exactly how much air it needs and when it needs it. Your breathing adjusts automatically to your level of activity, your emotional state, even your thoughts. This is effortless action at its most fundamental level. Wu Wei extends into how we approach challenges and obstacles. The conventional mindset says that difficulties must be overcome through sheer force of will, that problems require aggressive solutions. But the way of Wu Wei suggests a different approach. Instead of meeting force with force, we can learn to flow around obstacles like water finding its path to the sea. Consider how a martial artist trained in Wu Wei responds to an aggressive attack. Rather than meeting violence with violence, they redirect their opponent's energy, using the attacker's own force to restore balance. The harder the opponent pushes, the more their own momentum works against them. This principle applies not only to physical combat, but to all forms of conflict and resistance in life. When faced with a difficult person, Wu Wei suggests neither aggressive confrontation nor passive submission, but rather a third way, remaining centered in your own truth while allowing the other person's energy to flow around you without disturbing your peace. Like a tree that bends with the storm but never loses its roots, you can maintain your integrity while avoiding unnecessary conflict. In the workplace, Wu Wei might manifest as the manager who achieves excellent results not through micromanagement, but by creating an environment where people naturally want to excel. They understand that trying to control others often produces the opposite of the desired result, while providing clear vision and appropriate support allows natural motivation to flourish. The entrepreneur practicing Wu Wei doesn't force opportunities, but remains alert to openings that naturally present themselves. They understand that timing is crucial, that even the best ideas can fail if introduced at the wrong moment, while mediocre concepts can succeed brilliantly when aligned with the right circumstances. Wu Wei in finances means neither hoarding money from fear nor spending recklessly from impulse, but rather allowing financial decisions to arise from genuine wisdom about what truly serves your life's purpose. It means being generous when generosity feels natural and frugal when simplicity serves your deeper goals. The parent practicing Wu Wei provides loving guidance while allowing children to learn from natural consequences. They understand that overprotecting children from all difficulties prevents them from developing resilience, while abandoning them to face challenges alone denies them necessary support. Wu Wei finds the middle path, present and caring, but not controlling. Even in times of grief or loss, Wu Wei offers a way forward that honors both the reality of pain and the natural healing power of time. Rather than trying to force yourself to get over difficult emotions or wallowing in them indefinitely, Wu Wei suggests allowing feelings to flow through you like weather through the sky. You remain the spacious awareness that witnesses all emotions without being destroyed by any of them. The ancient Taoists recognized that seasons of difficulty and ease alternate naturally, just as night follows day and winter gives way to spring. Wu Wei teaches us to work with these natural rhythms rather than expecting constant progress or perpetual happiness. During challenging times, we conserve energy and focus on essentials. During expansive periods, we invest that stored energy wisely. In your professional life, Wu Wei might mean recognizing when to push forward with a project and when to step back and let things develop naturally. It means understanding that some problems resolve themselves when given time and space, while others require immediate attention. The art lies in distinguishing between the two and responding appropriately. For the student, Wu Wei transforms learning from a struggle to acquire knowledge into a natural process of opening to understanding. Instead of forcing information into reluctant memory, the Wu Wei approach creates optimal conditions for learning: relaxed attention, genuine curiosity, and trust in the mind's natural capacity to comprehend and retain what is truly useful. The practice of Wu Wei in communication means speaking when words are needed and remaining silent when silence serves better. It means allowing conversations to unfold organically rather than dominating them with your own agenda. Often, the most profound exchanges occur when both people are simply present with each other, allowing truth to emerge naturally rather than trying to convince or impress. In matters of health, Wu Wei suggests working with your body's natural healing intelligence rather than against it. This doesn't mean avoiding medical care when needed, but rather understanding that genuine healing often requires creating conditions where the body can restore itself. Rest when tired, eat when hungry, move when your body craves activity, be still when it needs quiet. The gardener practicing Wu Wei understands that plants have their own wisdom about when to grow and when to rest. They provide good soil, adequate water, and appropriate light, then trust each seed to unfold according to its nature. They work with natural seasons rather than trying to force roses to bloom in winter or expecting harvests before plants have had time to mature. Wu Wei in creative endeavors means allowing inspiration to guide the process rather than forcing predetermined outcomes. The painter who starts with a loose intention but remains open to what wants to emerge on the canvas. The writer who begins with a general direction but allows characters to reveal themselves and plots to unfold organically. This principle applies equally to the art of living itself. Wu Wei suggests holding your life plans lightly, maintaining a general sense of direction while remaining responsive to unexpected opportunities and changing circumstances. Like a skilled sailor who sets a course but adjusts constantly to wind and weather conditions, you can navigate toward your goals while remaining flexible about the exact route. As you rest in this peaceful moment, feel how Wu Wei is already operating in your life. Your heart beats effortlessly, your cells regenerate naturally, your breath flows without conscious management. This same intelligence that manages your physiology can guide your choices and actions if you learn to trust it. The deepest teaching of Wu Wei is that you don't need to manufacture wisdom or force spiritual growth. These qualities are your natural inheritance, temporarily obscured perhaps by the noise of mental activity, but never truly lost. Like the sun that continues shining even when hidden by clouds, your essential nature remains perfect and complete, needing only recognition, not improvement. Wu Wei invites you to relax the grip of effort and control, to stop pushing so hard against life's natural flow. This doesn't mean becoming passive, but rather learning to distinguish between helpful action that arises from wisdom and frantic activity that stems from anxiety or ego. In the deepest sense, Wu Wei is about remembering that you are not separate from the Tao, but an expression of it. When this recognition dawns, action becomes natural, effort becomes effortless, and achievement happens through you rather than by you. You discover that the same cosmic intelligence that moves the stars and turns the seasons is moving through your life, accomplishing everything that truly needs to be done. Like water that always finds its way to the ocean, like seeds that know exactly when to sprout, like birds that navigate vast distances without maps, you too carry within you an innate wisdom that knows the way. Wu Wei is simply the art of stepping aside and allowing this deeper intelligence to express itself through your life. Rest now in this understanding, dear listener. Let the ancient wisdom of effortless action settle into your consciousness like rain into thirsty earth. Trust the current that carries you, the rhythm that moves you, the intelligence that breathes you. In this trust, you discover that the way forward has always been as natural as your next breath, as effortless as your beating heart. Yin and Yang. In the quiet hours before dawn, when darkness begins its graceful dance with approaching light, we glimpse one of the universe's most profound teachings. The ancient Chinese sages, sitting in meditation as night slowly transforms into day, perceived in this daily miracle a fundamental truth about the nature of existence itself. They saw that what appears to be opposition is actually cooperation, that what seems like conflict is really the cosmic dance of complementary forces they called yin and yang. As you settle deeper into this moment of rest, imagine yourself floating on calm waters under a star-filled sky. Half your vision holds the infinite darkness above, while the other half reflects the gentle light of moon and stars dancing on the water's surface. Here, in this perfect balance between light and shadow, you begin to understand the ancient wisdom that has guided seekers toward harmony for thousands of years. The symbol of yin and yang, that elegant circle divided by a flowing S-curve into light and dark halves, each containing a dot of its opposite, may be one of humanity's most recognizable images, yet its true meaning extends far beyond its simple beauty. This ancient symbol captures the dynamic interplay of forces that creates and sustains all existence, from the largest galaxies to the smallest atoms, from the rhythm of your breathing to the beating of your heart. Yin, represented by the dark portion of the symbol, embodies the receptive, the yielding, the inward-flowing aspects of existence. It is the quality of deep valleys that gather morning mist, of still pools that reflect the sky perfectly, of fertile earth that receives seeds and nurtures them in patient darkness. Yin is the gentle strength of water that wears away stone, the quiet power of rest that restores the weary, the mysterious depths where all new life begins. Yang, shown in the bright portion, represents the active, the expanding, the outward-reaching force that complements Yin's receptive nature. It is the quality of mountain peaks reaching toward heaven, of fire that transforms and illuminates, of the sun that brings warmth and growth. Yang is the dynamic energy that initiates action, the creative force that gives form to possibility, the bright clarity that emerges from contemplative darkness. But here lies the profound wisdom of this ancient teaching. Yin and Yang are not opposing forces locked in eternal combat. They are dance partners, each defining and enabling the other, each incomplete without its complement. Like two sides of a single coin, they appear separate, but are actually aspects of one unified whole. Consider your own breathing as a perfect demonstration of this principle. Each inhalation is yang, an act of drawing in of life-giving air, an expansion of your lungs, a reaching out to embrace what you need. Each exhalation is yin, a gentle release, a letting go, a returning to emptiness that creates space for the next breath. Neither inhalation nor exhalation is better than the other. Both are necessary, both are natural, both arise and fade in perfect rhythm without your conscious direction. The ancient Taoists observed this dynamic balance everywhere in nature. Day follows night in endless cycles, neither permanent, each giving meaning to the other. Spring's active growth emerges from winter's receptive rest. Summer's expansive energy gradually yields to autumn's gathering inward. In each season they saw both yin and yang qualities, but in different proportions, creating the rich tapestry of natural cycle. As you rest here now, feel how your own body demonstrates this wisdom. Your heart contracts in active pumping, then relaxes in receptive filling. Your muscles alternate between tension and release. Even your thoughts follow this pattern, periods of active thinking giving way to moments of quiet awareness, mental activity balanced by peaceful emptiness. The yin-yang principle reveals why extremes in any direction ultimately lead to their opposite. Pure yang energy, unchecked by yin's moderating influence, burns itself out in frantic activity, eventually collapsing into exhaustion. Pure yin energy, without yang's activating force, stagnates in passive withdrawal, eventually demanding movement and change. Health, happiness, and harmony emerge from the dynamic balance between these complementary forces. In ancient China, there lived a farmer who understood this principle deeply. When drought came and his neighbors despaired, he remained calm, knowing that dry times call forth rain. When floods destroyed others' crops, he didn't lose hope, understanding that excess water eventually recedes, leaving fertile soil behind. His wisdom lay not in predicting specific outcomes, but in trusting the natural rhythm of change, the inevitable dance between opposite conditions. This same wisdom can transform how you relate to the inevitable challenges and changes in your own life. Times of difficulty are not signs that something has gone wrong, but natural phases in life's larger rhythm. Like winter preparing the way for spring, periods of struggle often clear away what no longer serves, creating space for new growth and possibilities. The relationship between masculine and feminine energies offers another beautiful illustration of yin-yang dynamics. Traditional yin qualities, like receptivity, intuition, and nurturing, complement traditional yang qualities, like initiative, logic, and protection. But here's the crucial understanding. Every person contains both energies, regardless of gender. Psychological health depends on honoring and integrating both aspects of your nature. When you're solving a problem, you might begin with yin qualities like receptive listening and intuitive sensing, gathering information and feeling into the situation. Then, yang energy helps you take decisive action based on what you've received. Creativity often follows this same pattern. Inspiration arises in yin receptivity, then yang energy gives it form and expression. In relationships, understanding yin-yang dynamics can transform conflict into deeper intimacy. When one person is expressing strong yang energy, perhaps speaking passionately about something important to them, the other can respond with yin qualities like patient listening and receptive understanding. This creates space for the yang energy to be fully expressed and received, naturally leading to a reversal where the listener becomes the speaker and roles flow seamlessly. Many relationship problems arise from both people trying to occupy the same position simultaneously. Two people both insisting on being the speaker or both withdrawing into passive listening creates imbalance and frustration. But when partners learn to dance between yin and yang roles, conversations become more satisfying and connections deepen naturally. The ancient symbol shows each half containing a dot of its opposite, teaching us that pure yin or pure yang doesn't exist in reality. The darkest night contains the seed of coming dawn. The brightest day carries within it the promise of restful evening. In your moments of greatest sorrow, compassion is being born. In your times of peak joy, wisdom about impermanence is quietly growing. This insight can bring tremendous peace during difficult periods. Depression, for instance, often represents an excess of yin energy, too much inward focus, too much receptivity to negative thoughts, insufficient yang activation and outward engagement. Rather than fighting depression as an enemy, yin-yang wisdom suggests gently introducing yang elements, movement, social connection, purposeful activity, exposure to light. Conversely, anxiety often stems from excess yang energy, too much mental activity, too much pushing forward, insufficient yin, stillness, and receptive rest. The cure isn't more yang effort to overcome anxiety, but rather cultivating yin qualities, deep breathing, meditative stillness, trusting receptivity to the present moment. In your work life, yin-yang balance manifests as alternating periods of focused effort with restorative rest, individual concentration with collaborative engagement, planning and visioning with executing and implementing. The most sustainable and creative professionals understand these rhythms, honoring both the yang drive to achieve and the yin need to reflect and recharge. Consider how even emotions follow yin-yang patterns. Anger, a yang emotion of active energy and outward focus, naturally seeks expression and movement. Sadness, more yin in nature, calls for inward reflection and receptive processing. Healthy emotional life allows both types of feeling their natural expression rather than trying to maintain constant equilibrium. The seasons of your life also reflect these dynamics. Childhood and young adulthood are naturally more yang, active, growing, reaching outward to explore and achieve. Middle age often brings more balance, integrating wisdom with action. Later years may become more yin, reflective, receptive, focused on meaning rather than accumulation. Understanding this can free you from fighting against your life's natural rhythms. Instead of judging quieter periods as unproductive or demanding that active phases continue indefinitely, you can flow with these cycles, drawing appropriate lessons and gifts from each phase. In creative endeavors, yin-yang balance is essential. Pure yang creativity burns bright but brief, producing work that may be energetic but lacks depth. Pure yin creativity remains forever potential, rich with possibility but never manifesting. Great art emerges from the dynamic interplay, receptive inspiration dancing with active expression, spontaneous flow balanced by disciplined craft. The practice of meditation beautifully demonstrates yin-yang harmony. You begin with yang effort, choosing to sit, establishing posture, focusing attention, but then you shift into yin receptivity, allowing thoughts to come and go, accepting whatever arises, releasing the need to control your experience. Advanced meditation becomes a fluid dance between gentle effort and effortless awareness. Physical health reflects this balance as well. Your body needs both yang activity to build strength and circulate energy, and yin, rest, to restore and regenerate. Exercise without adequate recovery leads to breakdown. Rest without sufficient challenge leads to weakness and stagnation. Optimal health emerges from honoring both needs appropriately. Even your breathing throughout the day naturally follows yin-yang rhythms. During yang activities like speaking, thinking, or physical exertion, your breath becomes more active and prominent. During yin states like listening, resting, or being in nature, your breathing settles into slower, deeper rhythms. Becoming aware of these patterns helps you choose activities that support your current energy state. The ancient Taoists taught that wisdom lies not in choosing one side over the other, but in recognizing when each quality is appropriate. Sometimes life calls for yang action, taking initiative, speaking your truth, pursuing your goals with determination. Other times, yin receptivity serves better, listening deeply, allowing situations to unfold, receiving what life offers without resistance. Like a skilled sailor who reads wind patterns and adjusts sails accordingly, you can learn to sense when to engage yang energy and when to embrace yin receptivity. This sensitivity develops through practice and attention, gradually becoming as natural as adjusting your clothing to match the weather. In financial matters, yang energy drives earning and accumulating, while yin wisdom guides spending and sharing. Balance means neither hoarding money from fear nor spending recklessly from impulse, but rather allowing financial decisions to arise from deeper understanding of what truly serves your life's purpose. Parenting offers countless opportunities to practice yin-yang balance. Children need both yang structure and boundaries to feel secure, and yin acceptance and space to discover their own nature. Effective parents learn to flow between providing guidance and allowing natural consequences to teach, between protecting and encouraging independence. As you deepen into rest now, feel how yin-yang dynamics operate in your own consciousness. Active thoughts arise and fade back into receptive awareness. Mental activity alternates with peaceful emptiness. Your attention moves between focusing on these words and simply being present with whatever arises. The deepest teaching of yin and yang is that harmony doesn't mean constant balance, but rather appropriate response to each moment's requirements. Like a tree that extends roots deep into dark earth while reaching branches toward bright sky, you can learn to honor both dimensions of existence, the receptive depths and the expressive heights. This ancient wisdom suggests that what you've been calling problems might actually be natural movements in life's larger dance. Times when you feel stuck may be necessary yin periods of germination, preparing for yang phases of growth and action. Periods of intense activity might naturally lead to quieter times of integration and rest. The small dots within each half of the symbol remind us that every experience contains the seed of its transformation. In your darkest moments, hope is being born. In your happiest times, the humility that deepens joy is quietly growing. Nothing remains fixed, everything flows, and within each apparent ending lies a new beginning. Rest now in this ancient understanding, dear listener. Feel yourself held by the gentle rhythm that governs all existence, the eternal dance between receiving and giving, between being and doing, between the depths of yin stillness and the heights of yang expression. In recognizing yourself as part of this cosmic harmony, you discover that peace was never something to achieve, but something to remember, as natural as breathing, as constant as the interplay of light and shadow that dances across your sleeping face. Nature as the ultimate teacher. In the mist-shrouded mountains of ancient China, a young seeker climbed for days to reach the hermitage of a renowned Taoist master. When he finally arrived, exhausted and eager for profound teachings, the old sage simply pointed to a pine tree growing from a crack in the rock face. "There," he said quietly, "is your teacher. Sit with it for a year, and it will reveal more wisdom than all the books ever written." The student thought this was a joke, but as months passed in quiet observation, he began to understand what the master meant. As you settle deeper into this moment of rest, imagine yourself in that same mountain setting. Feel the cool air, carrying the scent of pine and wild herbs. Hear the distant sound of water flowing over stones, the gentle rustle of leaves in the evening breeze. Here, surrounded by the eternal rhythms of the natural world, you begin to understand why the ancient Taoists considered nature not just beautiful scenery, but the greatest teacher of spiritual wisdom. The Taoists possessed a profound reverence for the natural world that went far beyond mere appreciation of beauty. They saw in every mountain, every river, every changing season a direct expression of the Tao itself. Nature was their scripture, their university, their temple. Where others might see only rocks and trees and flowing water, they perceived the living embodiment of cosmic principles that could guide human life toward harmony and peace. This wasn't primitive nature worship, but sophisticated spiritual science. These ancient observers spent lifetimes studying how the natural world operates, recognizing patterns and principles that modern ecology is only beginning to rediscover. They understood that humans are not separate from nature, but part of its intricate web, subject to the same laws that govern the seasons, the tides, and the cycles of growth and decay. Consider how a river teaches the art of persistence without aggression. Water never fights with the rocks in its path, never becomes angry at obstacles, never gives up in frustration. Instead, it flows around barriers with patient grace, gradually wearing away even the hardest stone through gentle, consistent pressure. Where the river cannot go around, it goes over. Where it cannot go over, it goes under. Where it cannot flow at all, it gathers strength until it can overcome whatever blocks its path. In your own life, you face obstacles that seem as solid as stone. The Taoist sage would encourage you to study the river's way. Instead of battering yourself against immovable circumstances, can you find a way to flow around them? Instead of wasting energy in futile resistance, can you gather your strength and wait for the right moment to move forward? The river teaches that persistence and patience together accomplish what force alone never could. Picture a mountain stream making its way down to the valley. It doesn't choose the most direct route, but follows the path of least resistance, winding and turning as the landscape requires. Yet it never loses sight of its destination. This is Wu Wei in perfect demonstration, effortless action that accomplishes its purpose by working with natural forces rather than against them. The ancient Taoists spent countless hours beside flowing water, learning its lessons of flexibility and determination. They noticed how water always seeks the lowest places, yet in time carves the deepest canyons. They observed how it yields to every pressure, yet outlasts the hardest granite. In water's humble strength, they found a model for how humans might move through the world with maximum effectiveness and minimum conflict. Now turn your attention to the mountains themselves, those ancient teachers of stability and endurance. A mountain does not hurry anywhere, does not strive to be taller than it is, does not compare itself to other peaks. It simply stands, rooted deep in the earth, reaching naturally toward the sky. Through storms that would topple any human structure, through seasons of blazing heat and bitter cold, through the centuries and millennia, the mountain endures with serene dignity. Yet mountains are not static. They grow and change, shaped by wind and rain, carved by rivers, thrust upward by forces deep within the earth. Their seeming permanence is actually a very slow dance of transformation. The Taoists saw in this a profound teaching about how to maintain inner stability while remaining open to necessary change. In your daily life, you can embody the mountain's wisdom by developing an inner core of calm that remains steady through external turbulence. Like a mountain that lets storms rage around its peak while its foundation remains unmoved, you can learn to let emotions and circumstances flow over you without losing your essential center. This doesn't mean becoming rigid or unresponsive, but rather finding a deeper ground of being that remains peaceful regardless of surface conditions. The trees growing on mountain slopes offered another level of teaching. Watch how they bend with the wind rather than breaking, how they drop their leaves in autumn rather than trying to hold on to what the season demands they release. A tree rooted in rocky soil grows slowly but strong, its wood dense and durable from meeting constant challenges. One planted in rich, easy earth might grow quickly but remain vulnerable to the first serious storm. The ancient Taoists saw in trees a perfect demonstration of how to thrive under difficult conditions. Adversity, rather than being an enemy to overcome, becomes the force that strengthens and deepens character. Just as a tree grows strongest when it must send roots deep to find water and nutrients, humans often develop their greatest wisdom and resilience through navigating challenging circumstances. Consider the patience of trees. An oak knows it will not reach maturity for decades, yet it doesn't hurry its growth or become discouraged by its slow progress. Each year it adds one ring, one layer of strength and wisdom earned through another cycle of seasons. It trusts the process completely, understanding that genuine growth cannot be rushed. In our age of instant gratification and constant pressure for immediate results, The tree's patient wisdom offers profound relief. Your own growth, your deepest healing, your most authentic achievements follow natural timing that cannot be forced. Like the oak that becomes mighty through decades of steady development, your character and wisdom deepen through sustained attention over time, not through desperate effort to accelerate what has its own organic pace. The cycles of seasons reveal another dimension of nature's teaching. Spring arrives not because winter gives up in defeat, but because the earth has completed its period of rest and renewal. The seeming death of winter is actually the necessary preparation for spring's explosion of life. Seeds planted in autumn lie dormant through the cold months, gathering strength for their eventual emergence into light. Your own life follows these same patterns. Times of difficulty and withdrawal are not failures but necessary seasons of preparation. What appears to be dormancy may actually be deep inner work happening below the surface of consciousness. Just as bulbs planted in fall trust the dark earth to nurture them through winter, you can learn to trust the fallow periods in your life as essential preparation for new growth. The ancient Taoists observed that trying to force spring's arrival or prevent winter's coming leads only to frustration and exhaustion. They learned instead to align with natural timing, understanding that each season has its gifts and its purposes. Winter's gift is rest, reflection, and the gathering of inner resources. Spring offers renewal, fresh starts, and the joy of new beginnings. Summer brings fulfillment, abundance, and the full expression of potential. Autumn provides harvest, gratitude, and the wisdom that comes from completion. Recognizing which season you're experiencing in your personal life allows you to work with natural rhythms rather than against them. During winter phases, honor the need for solitude and reflection rather than forcing yourself into premature activity. During spring periods, embrace new opportunities and directions with confidence. Summer seasons call for full engagement and the sharing of your gifts. Autumn times invite completion of projects, gathering of lessons learned, and preparation for the next cycle. The forest itself demonstrates the principle of mutual support and interdependence. The Taoists noticed that healthy forests are not collections of isolated trees competing for resources, but interconnected communities where each species contributes to the welfare of the whole. Fallen logs become nurseries for new seedlings. Fungi create networks that share nutrients between distant trees. Birds spread seeds to new locations while finding shelter and food. This vision of nature as an integrated system challenged the notion of survival of the fittest based on ruthless competition. The Taoists saw instead that the fittest are often those who cooperate most effectively, who find their unique role in the larger web of relationships. This ancient insight anticipates modern ecological understanding of forests as superorganisms, where individual health depends on community health. In human terms, this teaches the wisdom of seeing yourself not as an isolated individual struggling alone, but as part of a vast, interconnected community that includes all life. Your well-being and the well-being of others are intimately connected. What you do to heal and strengthen yourself ripples outward to benefit the whole web of relationships you're part of. What you do to serve others comes back to nourish your own life in unexpected ways. The ocean offers perhaps the most profound teachings about the nature of consciousness itself. On the surface, waves appear as separate entities, each with its own shape and movement. But beneath the surface, all waves are expressions of one ocean, temporary forms arising from and returning to the same source. The wave cannot be separated from the ocean any more than you can be separated from the unified field of consciousness that gives rise to all experience. When you identify yourself as a separate wave, you experience the anxiety of feeling isolated and temporary. But when you recognize yourself as the ocean, temporarily expressing as a wave, peace naturally arises. Your individual life becomes no less precious, but the fear of death dissolves when you understand that what you truly are can never be destroyed, only transformed. The Taoists spent long hours by the seashore, watching this play of unity and diversity, learning to see their own lives as temporary but meaningful expressions of something eternal. They discovered that the same consciousness that moves the waves moves through their thoughts and feelings. The same intelligence that guides migrating birds and blooming flowers guides their own deepest intuitions. Birds in flight offered another profound teaching. Watch how a flock of starlings moves as one organism, thousands of individuals coordinating their movements with perfect precision despite having no central coordinator. Each bird responds to the movements of its immediate neighbors, and these simple, local interactions create complex, beautiful patterns at the level of the whole flock. This demonstrates how harmony can emerge from the bottom up, through each individual following natural principles, rather than imposed from the top down through control and manipulation. In human communities, the Taoists saw that genuine order arises when each person acts from their authentic nature in responsive relationship with others, rather than through rigid hierarchies and external rules. Migration patterns of birds and butterflies reveal another aspect of natural wisdom, the importance of following inner guidance even when the destination cannot be seen. A butterfly that has never been to Mexico somehow knows to begin its southward journey when the time is right. Arctic terns navigate from pole to pole, following an internal compass that science is only beginning to understand. You too carry this kind of inner guidance, an intuitive knowing that can guide your choices when logical analysis reaches its limits. The Taoists called this following your original nature, trusting the deeper intelligence that has guided your life since birth. Like the migrating bird that knows when to begin its journey, you can learn to recognize when it's time to make important changes, even when you cannot see the entire path ahead. Night and day, the eternal dance of light and darkness, offered continuous teaching about the rhythms that govern all life. The Taoists noticed that the deepest rest comes in complete darkness, when consciousness can withdraw from external stimulation and restore itself. They saw that the most profound insights often arise in the quiet hours before dawn, when the mind is naturally still and receptive. Modern life, with its artificial lighting and constant stimulation, disrupts these natural rhythms, leading to the restlessness and anxiety that plague so many people. The ancient wisdom suggests that reconnecting with natural cycles of light and darkness, activity and rest, can restore both physical health and spiritual balance. As you rest in this moment, feel yourself reconnecting with these timeless rhythms. Allow your consciousness to settle like sediment in a still pond, revealing the clarity that exists beneath mental activity. Feel your breathing naturally slow and deepen, following the same rhythm that has sustained life for millions of years. The clouds drifting across the sky teach lessons about impermanence and non-attachment. No cloud tries to hold its shape forever or competes with others for the best position. They form and dissolve in their own natural timing, each unique and beautiful, each temporary and ephemeral. In their constant changing, they demonstrate the fluid nature of all phenomena. Your thoughts and emotions are like these clouds, arising and passing away in the sky of consciousness. When you identify too strongly with any particular mental state, it's like thinking you are one specific cloud, rather than the vast sky in which all clouds appear and disappear. The Taoists learned to rest in this sky-like awareness, witnessing the play of mental activity without being disturbed by its constant changes. Rain falling on the earth demonstrates the principle of gradual transformation through gentle persistence. A single raindrop seems insignificant, yet, over time, the accumulation of countless drops nourishes all life and shapes the landscape itself. Your daily choices and small actions follow this same pattern. Each moment of kindness, each practice of mindfulness, each gesture of love may seem small in isolation, but together they transform your character and influence your world in ways you may never fully realize. The Taoists found that spending time in nature naturally restored perspective, dissolving the artificial problems created by excessive thinking and returning attention to what truly matters. The forest doesn't worry about tomorrow's weather, the mountain doesn't compare itself to other peaks, The river doesn't hurry toward the sea but flows at its natural pace, responding moment by moment to the landscape it encounters. In nature's presence, you remember that you are part of something vast and benevolent, held by forces infinitely wiser and more powerful than your personal will. The same energy that moves the planets and changes the seasons flows through your life, guiding it toward experiences that serve your highest good, even when you cannot understand the larger pattern. The ancient deists discovered that the more time they spent observing nature, the more their own actions began to reflect natural principles. They became like the river, persistent but not aggressive, like the mountain, stable but not rigid, like the tree, growing slowly but surely toward the light, like the cloud, present but not permanent, like the bird, trusting inner guidance even when the destination remained unclear. This transformation happened not through effort or imitation, but through a kind of natural resonance. Just as a tuning fork begins to vibrate when another fork of the same frequency is struck nearby, prolonged exposure to nature's harmony gradually awakens the same harmony within human consciousness. As you drift deeper into rest now, feel this ancient resonance stirring within you. You are not separate from the natural world, but its newest expression, consciousness evolving through the particular form you temporarily inhabit. The wisdom that guides the seasons guides your life as well. The peace that pervades the forest at midnight pervades your deepest being. The patient strength of mountains, the fluid grace of rivers, the quiet trust of seeds in dark earth, all of these qualities live within you, waiting to be remembered and expressed. Rest in this knowing, dear listener. Let the eternal teachings of wind and water, stone and stars settle into your awareness like rain into thirsty soil. You are nature's student and nature's child, held always in the gentle embrace of forces that have nurtured life for billions of years. In recognizing your place in this vast community of being, you discover the peace that has always been your birthright, as natural as breathing, as constant as the turning of the earth toward dawn. The simplicity of Taoist living. In a remote valley of ancient China, there lived a hermit who owned nothing but a simple robe, a wooden bowl, and a small hut built against the shelter of an overhanging rock. Visitors who climbed the mountain path to seek his wisdom often expected to find a man suffering from poverty and deprivation. Instead, they discovered someone radiating such contentment and joy that they wondered if he possessed some secret treasure hidden away. When asked about his wealth, the hermit would smile and gesture toward the valley below, where morning mist danced among bamboo groves, where clear water sang over smooth stones, where wildflowers bloomed without anyone's care or attention. "I am," he would say softly, "the richest man in the world." As you settle more deeply into this peaceful moment, allow yourself to taste something of that hermit's contentment. Feel the simple pleasure of breath flowing easily in and out of your lungs. Notice the quiet satisfaction of having nowhere to go and nothing to accomplish except resting here in perfect ease. In this stillness, free from the endless demands of doing and having and becoming, you begin to understand what the ancient Taoists discovered about the profound richness that emerges from voluntary simplicity. The wisdom of simple living appears throughout Taoist philosophy, but perhaps nowhere more clearly than in the Tao Te Ching's famous passage, "In pursuit of knowledge, every day something is added. In pursuit of wisdom, every day something is dropped. Less and less is done until non-action is achieved. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone." This paradoxical teaching points toward a revolutionary understanding of what constitutes a truly successful life. Modern culture teaches us that happiness comes from accumulation. More money, more possessions, more experiences, more achievements, more recognition. We're encouraged to fill every moment with activity, to maximize productivity, to constantly expand our desires, and then work tirelessly to fulfill them. But the ancient Taoists, through careful observation of nature and deep contemplation of life's essential patterns, discovered something quite different. They noticed that the most powerful forces in nature operate through restraint rather than excess. The sun doesn't shine more brightly than necessary to sustain life. Rivers don't carry more water than their banks can hold without causing floods. Trees don't grow faster than their roots can support. In every natural system, they observed a principle of optimal simplicity, using exactly what is needed, no more and no less, to maintain harmony and health. Picture a master calligrapher creating a work of art. Each brushstroke is placed with perfect intention, every line serving the overall composition. The beauty of the finished piece comes not from adding more and more elements, but from the elegant economy of expression, the way each mark contributes to the whole without any excess or waste. This is the aesthetic of Taoist living, a life composed with the same careful attention to what is truly necessary and what is merely ornamental distraction. The sage Lao Tzu taught that contentment comes from recognizing when you have enough. But this enough is not a fixed quantity the same for everyone. Rather, it's a quality of inner recognition, a felt sense of sufficiency that arises when you stop measuring your life against external standards and start listening to your own deeper wisdom about what actually brings satisfaction. Consider how different your life might feel if you approached each day not with a list of things to acquire or accomplish, but with genuine curiosity about what this particular day wants to offer you. Instead of imposing your agenda on the hours ahead, you could receive each moment as a gift, appreciating whatever experiences arise without constantly reaching for something more or different. The Taoists discovered that this shift in perspective, from grasping to receiving, from demanding to appreciating, transforms even the simplest activities into sources of profound satisfaction. A cup of tea becomes a meditation on warmth and flavor. A walk becomes an opportunity to commune with the sky and earth. A conversation becomes a dance of minds and hearts meeting in understanding. This doesn't mean becoming passive or giving up on meaningful goals. Rather, it's about distinguishing between desires that arise from your authentic nature and those manufactured by social conditioning, advertising, or ego-driven comparison with others. The Taoist approach suggests pursuing goals that genuinely serve your well-being and that of others, while releasing attachment to outcomes beyond your control. The ancient story tells of a farmer whose horse ran away. His neighbors expressed sympathy for his bad luck, but he replied simply, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returned, bringing several wild horses with it. The neighbors congratulated him on his good fortune, but again he said, "Maybe." When his son tried to tame one of the wild horses and broke his leg, the neighbors offered condolences for this misfortune. "Maybe," the farmer responded. Soon after, war broke out and all the young men were conscripted, except his son, who couldn't serve because of his broken leg. This story illustrates the Taoist understanding that most of what we consider good luck or bad luck, success or failure, gain or loss, depends entirely on our limited perspective. What appears to be a setback from one angle often reveals itself as a benefit from another. What seems like a wonderful opportunity sometimes leads to unexpected complications. The wise person learns to hold all outcomes lightly, appreciating what comes without becoming attached to any particular result. In practical terms, this translates to approaching your daily activities with full engagement, but without desperate attachment to specific outcomes. You can work diligently on a project while remaining peacefully detached from whether it succeeds according to your initial expectations. You can love deeply while accepting that all relationships change and eventually end. You can pursue meaningful goals while remaining open to the possibility that life may guide you in unexpected directions. The principle of valuing stillness over constant activity runs counter to much contemporary wisdom about productivity and achievement. We're often told that success requires relentless motion, that any pause in activity represents laziness or lack of ambition. But the Taoists observed that the most fertile periods of growth often occur during apparent dormancy. Think of how seeds germinate in the darkness and stillness of soil, how creativity often emerges from periods of apparent inactivity, how solutions to complex problems frequently arise not through forced thinking, but in moments of relaxed receptivity. The mind, like the earth, needs fallow periods to restore its creative capacity. As you rest here now, you're practicing this ancient wisdom of productive stillness. In allowing your body to be completely at ease, your mind to release its planning and worrying, your spirit to simply be present without agenda, you create optimal conditions for the natural healing and restoration that can only occur when you stop trying to make things happen. The Taoist approach to time is radically different from our culture's obsession with efficiency and speed. Instead of trying to pack more activity into each moment, Taoist simplicity suggests doing fewer things with greater presence and attention. Better to have one meaningful conversation than 5 superficial ones. Better to prepare one meal with mindful care than to rush through multiple hastily assembled snacks. This quality of attention transforms ordinary activities into spiritual practice. Washing dishes becomes a meditation on the interplay of water, warmth, and cleanliness. Gardening becomes communion with the cycles of growth and decay. Even mundane tasks like sweeping or organizing can become opportunities to practice presence and find satisfaction in simple completion. The ancient Taoists noticed that happiness doesn't increase proportionally with the multiplication of pleasures. In fact, they observed that constantly seeking new stimulations often leads to a kind of pleasure fatigue, where increasingly intense experiences are needed to generate the same level of satisfaction. The alternative, they discovered, was to deepen appreciation for simple, readily available pleasures. The warmth of sunlight on your skin, the taste of cool water when you're thirsty, the sound of rain on the roof, the sight of leaves moving in the breeze, these experiences cost nothing and are available to almost everyone, yet they can provide as much genuine satisfaction as expensive entertainments when received with full attention and gratitude. This doesn't mean rejecting all sophisticated pleasures or living in artificial poverty. Rather, it's about developing the capacity to find richness in whatever circumstances you find yourself in, whether simple or elaborate. The Taoist sage can appreciate a gourmet meal without becoming dependent on fine food for happiness, can enjoy luxury without being enslaved by the need for it. The teaching about living with few desires addresses one of the primary sources of human suffering: the endless multiplication of wants that can never be permanently satisfied. Every desire fulfilled tends to generate new desires, creating a cycle that can consume an entire lifetime without ever reaching lasting contentment. The Taoist approach is not to suppress all desires, which would be both impossible and unhealthy, but to examine them carefully. Which desires arise from genuine needs and which from manufactured wants? Which longings serve your authentic growth and which merely feed ego-driven fantasies? Which aspirations connect you more deeply with life and which create separation and anxiety? Which has some elements of good and evil? Which longings connect you to a more existing origin and which create separation and anxiety? This process of discernment gradually simplifies your emotional life. Instead of being pulled in dozens of different directions by competing wants, you begin to recognize a deeper current of authentic intention that guides your choices with increasing clarity. Life becomes less scattered and more focused, not through rigid discipline, but through natural wisdom about what truly serves your well-being. The Taoist sage Zhuangzi told the story of a man who was so content with his simple life that when offered the position of prime minister with all its wealth and power, he politely declined. He compared accepting such a position to a sacred ox being fattened for sacrifice, honored and well-fed, but ultimately destined for destruction. He preferred the freedom and peace of his modest circumstances to the golden chains of high ambition. This story doesn't advocate avoiding all responsibility or achievement, but rather questions the assumption that bigger, more prestigious, more highly paid positions automatically lead to greater satisfaction. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. The key is to examine your motivations honestly. Are you pursuing particular goals because they genuinely align with your values and bring you joy, or because you think you should want them based on social expectations? The ancient teaching about letting go of excess ambition and competition addresses another major source of contemporary stress and dissatisfaction. In a culture that constantly ranks people against each other, Who's more successful, more attractive, more accomplished, more wealthy? It's easy to fall into the trap of measuring your worth by comparison with others. But the Taoists understood that this comparative mindset is fundamentally flawed because it's based on the illusion of separation. If you recognize that you're part of an interconnected web of life, then another person's success doesn't diminish your worth any more than one flower blooming diminishes the beauty of other flowers in the garden. Competition can be healthy when it motivates excellence and pushes you to develop your capabilities. But it becomes destructive when winning becomes more important than the intrinsic value of the activity itself. When you can only feel good about yourself by making others feel bad. When the fear of being surpassed prevents you from celebrating others' achievements. The alternative is what might be called competitive cooperation, pursuing excellence not to defeat others, but to contribute your unique gifts to the collective flourishing of life. This approach allows you to strive for mastery while maintaining genuine goodwill toward others, to work hard while remaining peaceful about outcomes, to achieve great things while staying humble about your role in larger patterns you don't fully understand. As you breathe softly in this moment of rest, feel how simplicity begins to settle into your awareness like snow falling on a quiet landscape. Each exhale releases something you don't need to carry. Each inhale brings exactly what serves this moment, nothing more, nothing less, just the perfect sufficiency of breath supporting life, of awareness illuminating experience, of peace arising naturally when you stop trying to make life into something other than what it is. The hermit in his mountain valley understood something that no amount of wealth or achievement could provide: the profound satisfaction that comes from being completely present with life as it actually unfolds, moment by moment, breath by breath. He discovered that contentment is not a destination to reach, but a way of being that can be cultivated anywhere, anytime, by anyone willing to release the exhausting pursuit of more and different and better, and instead embrace the exquisite richness of what is already here. In the spaciousness of this understanding, you find that you already have everything you need for this moment. You always have. The seeking was never necessary, only the remembering. The striving was never required, only the relaxing into what has always been available. The accumulating was never the answer, only the appreciating of what was never actually absent. Rest deeply in this ancient wisdom, dear listener. Let the simplicity that governs the turning of seasons and the flowing of rivers settle into your bones, your breath, your dreams. You are already whole, already sufficient, already rich beyond measure in the only currency that truly matters, the precious gift of conscious presence in this miraculous moment that will never come again, yet contains within itself all moments, all possibilities, all the peace you have ever sought. Taoist views on health and inner energy. High in the misty mountains of ancient China, a master healer sat in meditation as the first rays of dawn painted the sky in shades of pearl and gold. His breathing was so slow and deep that observers might have thought him sleeping, yet his awareness remained crystal clear, following the subtle circulation of life force through channels invisible to ordinary sight. When students asked him for the secret of his remarkable vitality, despite his advanced age, he would smile and place one hand on his heart, the other on his belly, and say simply, "Learn to breathe with your whole being, and you will discover the fountain of youth that flows within every moment." As you settle deeper into this peaceful state, allow your own breathing to find its natural depth and rhythm. Feel how each breath carries more than just air into your body. It brings the very essence of life itself, the mysterious force the Chinese call qi, pronounced qi, the vital energy that animates all existence. In this moment of quiet receptivity, you begin to sense what the ancient Taoist understood about the profound connection between breath, energy, and the art of living in harmony with the deepest currents of life. The Taoist approach to health and healing is founded on a revolutionary understanding. You are not merely a physical body that occasionally experiences energy. but rather a being of pure energy temporarily expressing itself through physical form. This energy, this qi, is the same force that moves the planets in their orbits, that draws sap up through trees, that guides birds in their migrations, and that beats your heart even while you sleep. Learning to work consciously with this energy is the foundation of Taoist healing arts. Imagine your body as a vast landscape crisscrossed by invisible rivers of light. These energy pathways, called meridians in traditional Chinese medicine, carry qi to every cell, every organ, every tissue. When this energy flows smoothly and abundantly, you experience vibrant health, emotional balance, and mental clarity. When the flow becomes blocked or depleted, dis-ease begins to manifest, first as subtle discomfort, then as more obvious symptoms if the imbalance persists. The beauty of the Taoist approach is that it teaches you to become your own healer by learning to sense and guide this inner energy. You don't need complex equipment or expensive treatments, only the cultivation of sensitivity to your own energetic rhythms and the wisdom to support your body's natural healing intelligence. The foundation of all Taoist energy practices is conscious breathing. But this is not the shallow, hurried breathing that characterizes modern life, where we often breathe only into the upper chest, using perhaps a third of our lung capacity. Taoist breathing engages the entire respiratory system, drawing breath deep into the belly, expanding the ribs, filling the back of the lungs, creating a wave-like movement that massages internal organs and circulates energy throughout the body. As you breathe now, place one hand on your chest, another on your belly. Notice which hand moves more with each breath. In natural, healthy breathing, the belly hand should move significantly more than the chest hand. This deep abdominal breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, triggering the body's relaxation response and creating optimal conditions for healing and restoration. The ancient Taoists developed specific breathing techniques to cultivate and circulate qi. One of the most fundamental is called breathing into the Dan Tian, the energy center located about 2 inches below your navel and 2 inches inside your body. This area is considered the primary reservoir of vital energy, like a furnace that generates warmth and vitality for the entire system. Try this gentle practice. Place both hands on your lower belly and breathe as if you're sending the breath directly to this area. Don't force or strain. Simply imagine that you're breathing into your hands, allowing the belly to expand naturally on the inhale and gently contract on the exhale. As you continue this practice, you may begin to sense a subtle warmth or tingling in this area, the first stirrings of conscious connection with your life force energy. The Taoists understood that the quality of your breathing directly affects the quality of your thinking and feeling. When breath is shallow and irregular, the mind becomes scattered and anxious. When breathing is deep and rhythmic, mental clarity naturally emerges. Emotions settle into balance, and the innate wisdom of the body can express itself freely. This connection between breath and consciousness forms the foundation of Taoist meditation. Unlike meditation practices that try to stop thoughts or achieve special states, Taoist meditation is simply the art of returning to natural breathing and allowing awareness to rest in the present moment. It's less about doing something and more about undoing the habitual patterns that disconnect you from your essential vitality. In the classical Taoist meditation posture, you sit comfortably with your spine naturally erect, as if a golden thread extends from the crown of your head to the sky above. Your chin is slightly tucked, creating length in the back of the neck. Your shoulders rest naturally, neither hunched nor pulled back. Your hands rest gently in your lap, and your breathing becomes soft and deep. But meditation in the Taoist tradition is not confined to formal sitting practice. Every activity becomes an opportunity to cultivate presence and circulate energy. Walking meditation, where you coordinate breath with slow, mindful steps. Eating meditation, where you chew slowly and appreciate the life force contained in your food. Even sleeping can become a form of meditation when you consciously relax into rest and trust your body's wisdom to restore itself. The concept of qi extends far beyond individual energy to encompass the vital force that connects all life. The Taoists recognize that your personal energy field is not separate from the larger field of energy that surrounds and interpenetrates everything. Trees, mountains, rivers, and oceans all pulse with qi, and learning to sense and harmonize with these larger energy patterns can dramatically enhance your own vitality. This is why spending time in nature is so naturally healing. The coherent, stable energy patterns of natural environments help restore balance to your own energy system. The slow, deep rhythms of the forest, the powerful stability of mountain energy, the fluid grace of flowing water, all of these natural forces can entrain your personal energy toward greater harmony and health. The ancient practice of Qigong, literally energy cultivation, combines gentle movement, breathing, and meditation to promote the free flow of qi throughout the body. These practices often mimic movements observed in nature, the swaying of trees, the flow of water, the grace of animals. By embodying these natural patterns, you align your energy with the larger rhythms of the cosmos. One simple Qigong exercise involves standing with your feet shoulder-width apart and slowly raising your arms overhead while breathing in, then gently lowering them while breathing out, as if you're embracing a large tree. This movement helps circulate energy between heaven and earth through your body, connecting you with the vertical axis that links earthly stability with celestial inspiration. The Taoist understanding of health encompasses not just the absence of disease, but the presence of vibrant vitality, emotional equilibrium, and spiritual clarity. This holistic view recognizes that physical symptoms often reflect deeper imbalances in the energy system, and true healing addresses these root causes rather than merely suppressing surface manifestations. For example, according to Taoist medicine, chronic fatigue often results from depletion of kidney qi, the deep constitutional energy that governs vitality and longevity. Rather than simply treating fatigue with stimulants, the Taoist approach would focus on practices that nourish and restore kidney energy, adequate rest, moderate exercise, specific breathing techniques, and foods that strengthen the deep energy reserves. Emotional imbalances are understood as disruptions in the flow of qi through specific organ systems. Excessive anger can injure liver qi, leading to tension, frustration, and physical symptoms affecting digestion and flexibility. Chronic worry depletes spleen qi, affecting your ability to process experiences and extract nourishment from food and life situations. The elegant solution is to cultivate emotional practices that support rather than drain your energy. Instead of suppressing difficult emotions, you learn to feel them fully while maintaining a deeper center of calm awareness. Instead of being overwhelmed by external circumstances, you develop the skill of remaining centered while responding appropriately to whatever arises. The five-element theory provides a sophisticated map for understanding these energy dynamics. Each element, wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, represents a different aspect of the life force and corresponds to specific organs, emotions, seasons, and qualities of energy. Understanding your own constitutional type and current energetic needs allows you to make choices that support rather than drain your vitality. Wood energy is associated with spring, growth, planning, and the liver system. When wood energy is balanced, you feel flexible, creative, and able to adapt to changing circumstances. When imbalanced, you might experience frustration, rigid thinking, or physical tension. Fire energy corresponds to summer, joy, connection, and the heart system. Balanced fire energy manifests as warmth, laughter, and the ability to form meaningful relationships. Imbalanced fire might show up as anxiety, insomnia, or difficulty maintaining emotional boundaries. Earth energy relates to late summer, nurturing, stability, and the spleen system. When earth energy is strong, you feel grounded, able to process experiences well, and naturally caring toward others. Earth imbalances can create worry, digestive issues, or difficulty feeling supported. Metal energy connects with autumn, letting go, inspiration, and the lung system. Balanced metal energy allows you to breathe deeply, release what no longer serves, and maintain appropriate boundaries. Metal imbalances might manifest as grief that won't resolve, shallow breathing, or skin problems. Water energy aligns with winter, rest, wisdom, and the kidney system. Strong water energy provides deep reserves of vitality, the ability to rest when needed, and access to intuitive wisdom. Water imbalances can create fear, exhaustion, or premature aging. Understanding these patterns helps you recognize your current energetic state and choose practices that restore balance. If you're experiencing wood imbalances like frustration and tension, gentle stretching and activities that promote flexibility can help restore harmony. If fire energy is excessive, causing anxiety or insomnia, cooling, calming practices like meditation near water might be beneficial. The Taoist approach to nutrition views food not just as fuel for the body, but as medicine that can support or disrupt your energetic balance. Foods have energetic qualities, warming or cooling, ascending or descending, moistening or drying, that affect your qi in specific ways. Warm cooked foods generally support digestion and build energy, especially during cold weather or when your vitality is low. Raw cooling foods can help clear excess heat and inflammation, but might weaken digestion if overused. The key is eating in harmony with your constitution, the season, and your current energetic needs. Eating becomes a form of meditation when you approach it with mindful attention. Chewing slowly and thoroughly not only aids digestion, but allows you to fully receive the life force contained in your food. Eating in a peaceful environment, rather than while stressed or distracted, ensures that you can properly assimilate both nutrients and qi from your meals. The timing of meals also affects your energy patterns. Eating your largest meal when digestive fire is strongest, typically midday, supports optimal assimilation. Eating heavily late at night interferes with the body's natural repair processes that occur during sleep. Sleep itself is viewed in Taoist tradition as a vital practice for cultivating and restoring qi. During sleep, your energy naturally moves inward to repair and regenerate tissues, process experiences, and restore emotional balance. Creating optimal conditions for sleep, a dark, quiet environment, consistent sleep times, and pre-sleep practices that calm the mind directly supports your energetic health. The ancient Taoists developed specific practices for enhancing the restorative power of sleep. One involves lying on your back with your hands resting gently on your lower belly, breathing slowly and deeply while visualizing golden light circulating through your body with each breath. This practice helps quiet mental activity while supporting the natural healing processes that occur during rest. Morning practices are equally important for establishing healthy energy patterns for the day. Beginning each day with a few minutes of conscious breathing, gentle movement, or quiet meditation helps align your personal energy with the fresh qi available at dawn. This sets a foundation of calm awareness that can be maintained throughout the day's activities. The Taoist principle of moderation applies especially to energy cultivation. Rather than pushing yourself to practice for hours, short, consistent sessions of breathing, movement, or meditation are more effective for building sustainable vitality. Like tending a garden, regular attention produces better results than sporadic intensive efforts. One of the most profound aspects of Taoist energy work is its emphasis on prevention rather than just treatment. By learning to sense subtle energy shifts before they manifest as physical symptoms, you can address imbalances early through simple adjustments in breathing, movement, diet, or lifestyle. This requires developing sensitivity to your own energy patterns, noticing how different activities, foods, people, and environments affect your vitality. You might notice that certain breathing practices leave you feeling more centered, that particular foods enhance your energy while others create sluggishness, that specific movements help release tension while others create strain. The goal is not to follow rigid rules, but to develop an intimate relationship with your own energy system, becoming fluent in the language of Kwai as it expresses itself through your unique constitution and circumstances. This inner wisdom becomes your most reliable guide for making choices that support long-term health and vitality. As you continue resting in this peaceful state, allow yourself to sense the subtle currents of energy moving through your body. Feel how your breath naturally massages internal organs, how relaxation allows circulation to flow more freely, how simply being present without agenda creates space for your innate healing intelligence to operate. The ancient Taoists understood that true healing happens not through force or manipulation, but through creating optimal conditions and then trusting the body's natural wisdom to restore balance. This might involve specific practices and treatments, but always with respect for the deeper intelligence that has maintained life for millions of years. In this moment, you are practicing the most fundamental Taoist healing art, the cultivation of peaceful presence. In this state of relaxed awareness, your nervous system naturally shifts toward restoration, your breathing deepens and slows, your circulation improves, and your body's remarkable capacity for self-healing can express itself fully. This is the secret the mountain hermit knew, that within the simple act of conscious breathing lies access to the same life force that powers the universe. You don't need to manufacture this energy or acquire it from external sources. You only need to recognize what is already flowing through you in every moment, as natural as your heartbeat, as constant as the circulation of your blood, as available as your next conscious breath. Rest deeply in this understanding, dear listener. Feel the ancient wisdom of energy cultivation settling into your awareness, like morning mist settling on a mountain lake. You are a being of infinite vitality, temporarily expressed through this precious physical form. The same key that moves the stars moves through you now, healing, restoring, and awakening you to the miraculous nature of your own existence. Immortality of the Taoist spirit. In the remote hermitages of ancient China, where mountain peaks pierce clouds and silence reigns for days at a time, Taoist masters pursued one of humanity's most profound quests, the discovery of immortality. But these were not seekers of endless physical life, driven by fear of death and attachment to the flesh. They were explorers of consciousness itself, mystics who dared to investigate what lies beyond the boundaries of individual existence, alchemists of the spirit who sought to transmute the lead of ordinary awareness into the gold of eternal understanding. As you rest in this deepening calm, allow your breathing to become so gentle that it seems to merge with the very fabric of existence. Feel how each exhale releases not just air, but the small self's desperate grip on permanence, while each inhale draws you closer to the vast, timeless presence that has always been your truest nature. In this sacred space between breaths, you begin to glimpse what the ancient sages discovered about the deathless essence that wears your temporary form like clothing worn for a season. The Taoist understanding of immortality is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of this profound tradition. Western minds, hearing tales of sages who lived for centuries or masters who transformed their bodies into light, often focus on the fantastical elements while missing the deeper teaching. True Taoist immortality is not about extending physical life indefinitely, but about recognizing the aspect of your being that was never born and therefore can never die. The alchemists of ancient China worked with two kinds of transformation: external alchemy, which involved the literal transmutation of base metals into gold, and internal alchemy, the far more important work of transmuting ordinary consciousness into enlightened awareness. While external alchemy eventually gave birth to chemistry and medicine, internal alchemy revealed the secret of spiritual transformation that lies at the heart of all genuine mystical tradition. Picture an ancient laboratory high in the mountains, where a master alchemist tends a fire that has burned continuously for months. In crucibles and retorts, substances undergo careful heating and cooling, separation and recombination, as the alchemist seeks to understand the fundamental principles that govern transformation. But the wise practitioner knows that the true laboratory is consciousness itself, and the real gold being created is the recognition of one's essential nature. The process of internal alchemy follows precise stages, each representing a deeper level of understanding and embodiment. The first stage involves what the Taoists called gathering the medicine, learning to conserve and cultivate your life force energy rather than dissipating it through careless living. This includes practices like conscious breathing, moderate diet, appropriate exercise, and emotional equilibrium. As you breathe softly now, you participate in this ancient gathering. Each conscious breath draws in not just oxygen, but the very essence of life itself. Each moment of peaceful awareness conserves precious energy that is usually scattered through worry, restlessness, and unconscious activity. In the simple act of resting with full presence, you begin the alchemical work of transformation. The second stage involves cooking the medicine through sustained spiritual practice. Just as the external alchemist maintains precise temperatures and timing, the internal alchemist must maintain consistent practice over long periods. This might include daily meditation, qigong, study of sacred texts, and living in harmony with natural rhythms. Gradually, through this patient cultivation, ordinary awareness begins to undergo a subtle transformation. The third stage is called forming the spiritual embryo, a mysterious process where the practitioner begins to develop what could be called a spiritual body, a refined form of consciousness that exists independently of physical form. This is not imagination or wishful thinking, but an actual development that occurs through sustained practice, similar to how physical exercise gradually builds muscle strength. In the fourth stage, this spiritual embryo hatches, meaning the practitioner achieves a stable realization of their true nature as pure awareness. They recognize themselves as the consciousness in which all experiences arise and pass away, rather than as a separate individual having experiences. This recognition brings the first taste of genuine immortality, the understanding that what you truly are cannot be born or die. The final stage involves what the Taoists called emerging from the matrix, complete liberation from identification with the physical form while remaining fully engaged with life. Such beings are said to have achieved spiritual immortality, not because their bodies live forever, but because they have realized their identity as the eternal consciousness that temporarily expresses itself through countless forms. These stages are not mere philosophy, but describe an actual developmental process that dedicated practitioners have followed for thousands of years. While few reach the ultimate stages, everyone can benefit from understanding and applying the basic principles of spiritual alchemy to their daily life. The key insight underlying all of these practices is the recognition that you are not your body, your thoughts, your emotions, or your personal history. These are all temporary manifestations arising within the field of your aware presence. Just as waves are temporary forms taken by the eternal ocean, your individual life is a temporary form taken by eternal consciousness. Consider the profound teaching embedded in the simple fact of your awareness. Right now, you are aware of these words, of your breathing, of sensations in your body, of thoughts and feelings as they arise and pass away. But what is this awareness itself? Can you locate it anywhere specific? Does it have size, shape, color, or age? Has this basic capacity for awareness changed at all since you were a child, despite all the changes in your body and mind? This awareness, this pure knowing presence, is what the Taoist recognized as your true nature. It is what remains constant through all change, what witnesses all experiences without being touched by them, what was present before your birth and will remain after your death. Recognizing this awareness as your essential identity is the foundation of spiritual identity. The fear of death arises from misidentification with the temporary forms that awareness takes rather than awareness itself. When you deeply understand that you are the infinite consciousness temporarily experiencing itself as a finite individual, death loses its terror. It becomes simply a transition, like waking from a dream or changing clothes. This doesn't mean becoming careless with physical life or eager for death. The Taoist sage treasures the precious opportunity that human existence provides for spiritual development and service to others. But But this treasuring comes from appreciation rather than desperate attachment, like a gardener who loves the flowers in their care while understanding that each bloom has its season. The ancient stories tell of masters who, when their time came to leave physical form, gathered their disciples and spoke of their departure as simply as one might announce a journey to another town. Some are said to have dissolved their bodies into light, others walked into the mountains and were never seen again. Still others died in ordinary ways but radiated such peace and joy that observers felt they were witnessing a celebration rather than a tragedy. These stories point to the transformation of consciousness that is possible when the deepest teachings are fully embodied. Death becomes not an ending, but a completion, not a defeat, but a graduation, not a loss, but a return to the source from which you never actually departed. As you rest in this moment, feel into the deathless quality of your own awareness. Notice how thoughts arise and pass away within this aware presence, without disturbing its essential nature. Observe how sensations come and go, how emotions rise and fall, how experiences constantly change, while the awareness that knows all of this remains perfectly stable and unchanged. This stable awareness is sometimes called the unborn, because it was never created and therefore cannot be destroyed. It is your true face before your parents were born, your original nature that exists before and after all temporary manifestations. Recognizing this aspect of your being brings immediate peace and the beginning of genuine spiritual immortality. The practice of dying before death is central to Taoist internal alchemy. This involves learning to release identification with the temporary aspects of yourself while fully alive, discovering through direct experience what remains when all that is impermanent is let go. In deep meditation, in moments of profound peace, in experiences of unity with nature, you taste this deathless essence, this act. Each night as you fall asleep, you undergo a kind of temporary death, as the ego dissolves and consciousness merges with deeper layers of being. Yet something in you remains aware even in the deepest sleep, dreaming dreams and maintaining the body's functions. This something that continues through sleep is a pointer to what continues beyond death. The Taoist understanding of reincarnation differs somewhat from other traditions. Rather than viewing it as the same individual soul moving from body to body, Taoists see it more like water taking different forms, sometimes as clouds, sometimes as rain, sometimes as rivers, sometimes as ocean, but always essentially water. Consciousness expresses itself through countless forms, but the consciousness itself is one undivided whole. From this perspective, you have already lived countless lives, and will live countless more, not as the same personality, but as the same essential awareness, expressing itself through infinite variety. Every being you encounter is another face of the same consciousness that looks out through your eyes. This recognition naturally gives rise to universal compassion and the dissolution of the artificial barriers between self and other. The great secret of spiritual immortality is that it is not something to be achieved in the future, but something to be recognized in the present. The eternal life you seek is the life you are already living, seen clearly without the veil of identification with temporary forms. The deathless being you hope to become is the being you have always been, waiting patiently to be acknowledged. This recognition often comes in moments of profound stillness, when the usual mental commentary quiets and you simply are, without needing to be anything in particular. In these moments, the boundaries between self and world dissolve, time seems to stop, and you taste the infinite presence that is your true home. The legendary Taoist immortals are said to live in hidden realms, sometimes in the mountains, sometimes in parallel dimensions, sometimes simply disguised as ordinary people going about their daily business. But perhaps the real teaching is that these immortals live wherever awakened consciousness expresses itself with wisdom and compassion. You may encounter such beings without recognizing them: the elderly man who radiates inexplicable peace, the child whose laughter seems to contain the joy of the universe, the stranger whose brief kindness changes the entire quality of your day. These moments of contact with awakened consciousness remind you of your own immortal nature. The cultivation of spiritual immortality is ultimately about learning to live from this deeper identity, while still functioning effectively in the world of form. It means making decisions based on wisdom rather than fear, treating others with the respect due to expressions of the same consciousness you are, and meeting all experiences with the equanimity that comes from knowing your essential nature cannot be harmed. As you sink deeper into rest now, allow yourself to feel the vast continuity that stretches infinitely in all directions from this moment. You are not an isolated individual briefly flickering in cosmic darkness, but a unique expression of the eternal consciousness that has always existed and will always exist. Your life is not an accident, but a precious opportunity for this consciousness to know itself more fully. The molecules that form your body have existed since the beginning of time, cycling through countless forms: stardust and ocean water, plants and animals, other human beings, and will continue this cosmic dance long after your current form dissolves. The awareness that knows these molecules, that experiences through them, is equally eternal, equally indestructible. In recognizing this truth, death becomes as natural as birth, as peaceful as falling asleep, as joyful as coming home after a long journey. You realize that you have never actually been born and will never actually die, that what you truly are has always been and will always be, that the eternal Tao, expressing itself as your temporary life, is the same Tao expressing itself as every star, every tree, every breath. This is the immortality that the ancient masters discovered, not endless continuation of the personal self, but recognition of the impersonal self that wears all forms while remaining forever free. In this recognition, the deepest questions about life and death are not answered but dissolved, leaving only the profound peace of knowing yourself as the eternal dancing of consciousness, forever creating and destroying forms while remaining itself unchanging and untouchable. Rest deeply in this ancient understanding, dear listener. You are already the immortal being you seek to become. You have always been the deathless awareness you hope to find. The eternal life you long for is the life you are living right now, seen with the clear eyes of wisdom rather than the clouded vision of fear. In remembering this truth, you step beyond the realm of birth and death into the timeless presence that is your true and endless home. Taoist paradoxes. In the bamboo groves of ancient China, where shadows dance with light and silence speaks louder than words, the great sage Zhuangzi would gather his students not in formal lecture halls, but beside meandering streams and under star-filled skies. His teaching method was unlike any other. He would tell stories that seemed simple on the surface, but contained depths of wisdom that could occupy a lifetime of contemplation. These were not mere tales for entertainment, but carefully crafted paradoxes designed to crack open the rigid shell of ordinary thinking and allow the light of deeper understanding to shine through. As you settle into this peaceful state of receptivity, imagine yourself among those ancient students, sitting on soft grass as twilight deepens around you. The master's voice carries across the evening air, weaving stories that seem to come from a realm where the usual rules of logic dissolve into something far more mysterious and profound. In this space between day and night, between waking and sleeping, the mind becomes receptive to truths that cannot be grasped through ordinary reasoning. The art of the Taoist parable lies in its ability to point beyond conceptual understanding toward direct recognition of how reality actually works. These stories don't provide answers in the conventional sense, but rather create a kind of mental vertigo that loosens the grip of fixed beliefs and opens space for genuine insight to arise. They are like keys that unlock doors in consciousness you didn't even know existed. Let us begin with perhaps the most famous of all Taoist stories, one that has puzzled and delighted minds for over 2,000 years. Zhuangzi told of a time when he dreamed he was a butterfly, fluttering happily from flower to flower, completely absorbed in the simple joy of being a butterfly. The dream was so vivid, so complete, that there was no sense of being anyone other than this carefree creature dancing on the morning breeze. When he awoke, Zhuangzi found himself back in human form, sitting in his simple dwelling. But instead of dismissing the dream as unreal, he was struck by a profound question. Now I do not know whether I was then Zhuangzi dreaming I was a butterfly, or whether I am now a butterfly dreaming I am Zhuangzi. This story works like a gentle explosion in the mind, shattering the certainty that what we call waking life is more real than what we experience in dreams. How can you prove that your current experience is not itself a dream? What makes one state of consciousness more valid than another? The butterfly dream dissolves the artificial hierarchy between different levels of reality, suggesting that all experiences arise within the same field of pure awareness. As you rest here now, feel how this story touches something in your own experience. Have you not sometimes awakened from dreams so vivid that it took several moments to remember which reality you belonged to? Have you not had moments in waking life that felt dreamlike, surreal, as if you were moving through a world not quite solid? The boundary between dreaming and waking is far more porous than we usually imagine. The deeper teaching of the butterfly dream points to the fluid nature of identity itself. In the dream, Zhuangzi completely identified with being a butterfly. There was no human self observing the butterfly experience. Upon waking, he identified with being human, but who was the one aware of both identities? This witness consciousness that remains constant through all changing experiences is what the Taoist recognized as our true nature. Another of Zhuangzi's most beloved stories tells of Cook Ding, who was preparing an ox for the ruler. His movements were so graceful, so effortless, that the knife seemed to dance through the carcass without resistance. When the ruler expressed amazement at this skill, the cook explained that he had been using the same knife for 19 years, yet it remained as sharp as the day it was forged. When I first began cutting up oxen, the cook said, all I could see was the ox itself. After 3 years, I no longer saw the whole ox, and now I go at it by spirit and don't look with my eyes. My whole being knows where to go. The knife finds its way between joints and through the hollow spaces. Because I follow the natural structure, my blade encounters no resistance, and after 19 years it remains perfectly sharp. This story reveals the secret of Wu Wei, effortless action that accomplishes everything by working in harmony with natural patterns rather than forcing outcomes through brute effort. The cook has learned to see not just the surface appearance, but the underlying structure of reality, the spaces where movement can flow without creating conflict or resistance. In your own life, you can cultivate this same skill of finding the natural pathways through challenges and obstacles. Instead of attacking problems head-on with maximum force, you can learn to sense where resistance yields, where gentle pressure opens possibilities, where patience accomplishes more than urgency. Like the cook's knife finding spaces between joints, your actions can flow through life's complexities with surprising ease when guided by wisdom rather than willpower. Guanzu told another story about a man who was so ugly that men would flee at the sight of him, yet women found him irresistibly attractive. When asked to explain this paradox, the women said, when we look at him, we see not his physical appearance but the beauty of his character. His acceptance of himself is so complete, his presence so authentic, that we forget his face and see only his essence. This tale points to the mysterious alchemy of self-acceptance. When someone stops trying to be different from what they are, stops hiding their true nature behind masks of social acceptability, a natural magnetism emerges that has nothing to do with conventional attractiveness. The man's ugliness became irrelevant because he had transcended the need to be seen as beautiful. How often do we exhaust ourselves trying to be someone we think others will find acceptable, hiding our authentic nature behind carefully constructed personas? The ugly man's secret was the revolutionary act of being completely himself, without apology or pretense. In that total authenticity, others glimpsed something rare and precious, a being at peace with their own nature. The sage also told of two friends who loved to argue about philosophical questions. One day, they stood beside a river watching fish swimming in the clear water. "Look how happy those fish are," said the first friend. "How do you know the fish are happy?" challenged the second. "You are not a fish, so how can you know their emotional state?" The first friend smiled and replied, "You are not me, so how do you know that I don't know?" This playful exchange reveals the limitations of purely rational discourse when it comes to understanding the deeper dimensions of experience. How much of what we think we know is actually direct knowledge, and how much is assumption, projection, or conceptual construction? The story suggests that there are ways of knowing that transcend logical analysis, intuitive, empathetic, participatory ways of understanding that connect us directly with the essence of what we're observing. When you watch clouds drifting across the sky or listen to wind in the trees, do you need scientific explanations to appreciate their beauty? When you sense another person's mood or feel the atmosphere of a place, are you using logical deduction or some more immediate form of knowing? The fish story points to these subtler capacities for direct knowing that complement but transcend rational thinking. Zhuangzi delighted in stories that revealed the relative nature of all judgments. He told of a tree so gnarled and twisted that carpenters rejected it as useless for lumber. Because it was considered worthless, no one cut it down, and it grew to enormous size, providing shade for hundreds of people and shelter for countless birds and insects. Its very uselessness became its greatest gift. "Everyone knows the usefulness of the useful," Zhuangzi observed, "but no one knows the usefulness of the useless." This paradox challenges our habitual way of evaluating experiences based on immediate practical benefit. What appears worthless from one perspective might be invaluable from another. What seems like failure might be the perfect preparation for future success. What looks like a detour might be the most direct path to your destination. The story invites you to reconsider the difficult or seemingly pointless experiences in your own life. Periods of confusion, times of apparent failure, relationships that didn't work out as planned. Might these useless experiences have given you something precious that couldn't have been gained any other way? Like the twisted tree that escaped the carpenter's saw, your perceived flaws and failures might be the very qualities that allow you to offer unique gifts to the world. Another tale speaks of a man who lost his horse, which ran away into the hills. His neighbors came to express sympathy for his misfortune, but he said simply, "How do you know this is misfortune?" The next day the horse returned, bringing with it several wild horses. The neighbors congratulated him on his good luck, but again he responded, "How do you know this is good luck?" When his son tried to tame one of the wild horses and broke his leg, the neighbors offered condolences, but the man asked, "How do you know this is bad luck?" Soon after, war broke out, and all the young men were conscripted except his son, who couldn't serve because of his broken leg. This story reveals the futility of judging experiences based on immediate appearances. What seems like disaster often contains the seeds of unexpected benefits. What appears to be wonderful luck sometimes leads to unforeseen complications. The wise person learns to hold all outcomes lightly, neither celebrating nor lamenting too quickly, understanding that the full significance of any event can only be seen from the perspective of time and larger patterns. Zhuangzi told of a conversation between the wind and the rain. The wind boasted of its power to uproot trees and destroy buildings. The rain claimed superiority, pointing to its ability to flood valleys and carve canyons. As they argued about who was stronger, a small seed lying in the earth between them began to sprout. Drawing nourishment from the rain and spreading its leaves to dance with the wind, the tiny plant reminded both forces that their true power lay not in destruction, but in their ability to nurture life. This gentle tale suggests that what we often perceive as opposing forces might actually be complementary aspects of a larger creative process. Conflict and cooperation, challenge and support, difficulty and ease. These apparent opposites work together to create the conditions for growth and transformation. Understanding this deeper unity can transform how you relate to both the pleasant and difficult aspects of your experience. The master spoke of a student who came to him saying, "I have been practicing meditation for years, but I still have thoughts. I must be a failure at spiritual practice." The teacher smiled and asked, "When you look in a mirror, do you blame the mirror for showing your reflection? When clouds pass in front of the sun, do you criticize the sky for being temporarily obscured?" The student realized that consciousness, like the mirror and the sky, remains perfectly clear and unaffected, no matter what appears within it. This story points to a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of spiritual practice. The goal is not to eliminate thoughts and feelings, but to recognize the unchanging awareness in which they arise and pass away. Like the sky that remains vast and open whether filled with clouds or completely clear, your essential nature remains pristine, regardless of what experiences arise within it. Zhuangzi delighted in the story of the empty boat. He described how if you're crossing a river and an empty boat collides with yours, you don't become angry because there's no one to blame. But if there's someone in the boat, you shout and curse at them to move away. The sage suggested living like an empty boat, moving through life without the ego weight that creates friction and conflict with others. This metaphor reveals how much suffering arises from taking things personally that have nothing to do with our essential nature. When someone is rude or inconsiderate, they're usually expressing their own internal weather rather than making a statement about you. Learning to respond from the empty boat of egoless awareness, you can navigate social interactions with much less reactivity and much more grace. The ancient stories tell of a man who loved gold so much that he went to the marketplace, grabbed some from a vendor's stall, and walked away. When caught and asked why he did such an obvious thing, he replied, "When I took the gold, I saw only the gold. I didn't see the people." Zhuangzi used this story to illustrate how desire can create such tunnel vision that we lose sight of everything except the object of our craving. This tale speaks to the way obsessive wanting narrows our perception and disconnects us from the larger context of life. Whether it's gold, success, recognition, or even spiritual achievement, excessive attachment to any particular outcome can blind us to the richness of what's actually available in each moment. True wisdom involves appreciating goals while remaining aware of the whole landscape of experience. As these ancient stories wash over your consciousness like gentle waves, notice how they work differently than logical arguments or direct instruction. They create a space around rigid thinking, allowing new possibilities to emerge. They don't tell you what to think, but invite you to think in new ways. They don't provide final answers, but open questions that can deepen and enrich over time. The butterfly still dances between dreaming and waking, reminding you that reality is far more fluid and mysterious than conventional wisdom suggests. The cook's knife still finds its way through seemingly solid obstacles, showing you that effortless action is possible when you learn to work with natural patterns rather than against them. The ugly man continues to radiate authentic presence, demonstrating that self-acceptance transforms perceived flaws into unexpected gifts. These stories live not in the past but in the eternal present where all wisdom traditions converge. They speak to the timeless aspects of human experience, the longing for meaning, the search for truth, the desire to live with greater wisdom and less suffering. In their gentle paradoxes and impossible solutions, they point toward a way of being that transcends the limitations of ordinary thinking. As you rest in the space these stories have opened, feel how they continue to work within your consciousness, like seeds planted in fertile soil. You don't need to understand them completely or extract specific lessons. Simply allowing them to resonate in the depths of your being is enough. They will unfold their teachings in their own time, in their own way, as you're ready to receive them. While you're ready, the ancient masters understood that truth cannot be grasped directly, but only recognized when the mind becomes quiet enough, spacious enough, humble enough to receive it. These stories are medicine for the rigid ego, gentle solvents that dissolve the artificial boundaries between self and world, between dreaming and waking, between success and failure, between knowing and not knowing. Rest deeply now in the mystery these tales have revealed, the mystery of a reality far more playful, far more paradoxical, far more benevolent than the serious, logical, threatening world our worried minds often construct. You are the butterfly dreaming of being human, the cook whose knife finds only empty spaces, the ugly man whose authenticity creates unexpected beauty. In recognizing yourself in these ancient mirrors, you discover that wisdom was never something to acquire, but something to remember, as natural as breathing, as present as this very moment of gentle awareness. Like a gentle river that has carried you through landscapes of ancient wisdom, our journey through the teachings of the Tao now approaches the vast ocean of sleep. Behind us lie the insights we have gathered together, pearls of understanding about the art of living in harmony with the deeper currents of existence. Ahead lies the restorative darkness, where consciousness releases its daily burdens and returns to the source from which all things arise. As you allow your body to settle even more completely, feel how the wisdom of these timeless teachings has begun to work within you, not as concepts to remember, but as living qualities awakening in your very being. Like seeds that have been planted in fertile soil, these ancient understandings will continue to grow and unfold in the quiet depths of your consciousness, nourishing your life in ways both subtle and profound. We began this journey by entering the Tao itself, that mysterious source and destination of all existence. You discovered that you are not separate from this cosmic flow, but an integral expression of it, as natural as water flowing toward the sea, as essential as breath moving through sleeping lungs. The Tao is not something distant to be reached, but the very ground of your being, the aware presence that witnesses all experiences while remaining forever untouched by their coming and going. Through the words of Lao Tzu, that ancient sage who captured the essence of the way in 81 brief chapters, you glimpse the power of simplicity, humility, and balance. His teachings reminded you that true strength comes not from forcing outcomes, but from aligning with natural patterns, that genuine wisdom arises from knowing the limits of knowledge, that lasting peace emerges from accepting what is while remaining open to what might be. The art of Wu Wei revealed its secrets to you, the profound effectiveness of effortless action that accomplishes everything by doing nothing. Like water that never struggles, yet carves the grandest canyons, like trees that never hurry, yet reach perfect maturity, you learned that your greatest achievements often emerge when you stop trying so hard and start trusting the intelligence that flows through you when the ego steps aside. In the dance of yin and yang, you witness the eternal interplay of opposites that creates all manifestation. Light and shadow, activity and rest, expansion and contraction. These apparent conflicts revealed themselves as complementary forces in the cosmic symphony. You understood that seeking permanent happiness, or trying to avoid all difficulty, is like trying to have coins with only one side. True wisdom lies in flowing gracefully between the poles of experience, finding the dynamic balance that honors both aspects of life's eternal rhythm. Nature became your teacher, as it was for the ancient Taoists, who spent lifetimes observing the lessons written in flowing water, towering mountains, and changing seasons. From the patience of trees, you learned to trust your own natural timing. From the persistence of rivers, you discovered how gentleness can overcome the hardest obstacles. From the cycles of seasons, you understood that every ending contains a new beginning. Every winter prepares for spring. The path of simplicity opened before you like a clear mountain trail, free from the complications that modern life tends to accumulate like dust on a neglected surface. You tasted the profound satisfaction that comes from wanting less rather than having more, from being present with what is rather than constantly reaching for what might be. In voluntary simplicity, you found not poverty, but the ultimate luxury, freedom from the endless hunger that can never be permanently satisfied. Through the Taoist understanding of health and energy, you discovered that you are not merely a physical body that occasionally experiences energy, but a being of pure consciousness temporarily expressing itself through material form. The cultivation of Qi, the life force that animates all existence, became a pathway to vitality that works with your body's natural wisdom rather than against it. In conscious breathing and mindful presence, you found the foundation of all healing. The mystery of spiritual immortality revealed its secret, not endless continuation of the personal self, but recognition of the eternal awareness that wears all forms while remaining forever free. You glimpsed your true nature as the deathless presence that was never born and therefore cannot die, the consciousness that dreams all dreams while remaining forever the dreamer. In this understanding, death lost its terror and became simply another transition in the endless dance of form and formlessness. The paradoxes and wisdom stories of the ancient masters worked their subtle magic on your consciousness, loosening the grip of rigid thinking and opening space for deeper ways of knowing. Like Zhuangzi's butterfly dream, they reminded you that reality is far more fluid and mysterious than logical analysis can capture. Like Kuk Ding's effortless skill, they showed you that mastery comes through harmony rather than force. Now, as these teachings settle into the depths of your being like sediment in a still pond, allow yourself to release any effort to understand or remember them. Wisdom received in this state of receptive calm works differently than information gathered through mental effort. It becomes part of your inner landscape, shaping your responses and choices in ways that transcend conscious analysis. Feel how your breathing has naturally deepened and slowed throughout this journey, how your body has progressively relaxed into the support that has always been available, how your mind has gradually quieted, like wind subsiding after a storm. This settling is not something you have made happen, but something you have allowed to unfold, like a flower opening to morning light, or a lake becoming still after the boat has passed. The essence of all Taoist teaching can be distilled into this simple truth: you already are what you seek to become. The peace you long for is the peace you already are beneath the surface turbulence of thoughts and emotions. The wisdom you hope to acquire is the wisdom that breathes you and beats your heart and guides your dreams. The harmony you wish to achieve is the harmony that moves the stars and changes the seasons and orchestrates every cell in your body in perfect coordination. Letting go into the flow of life means releasing the exhausting effort to swim against the current of existence, to resist what is in favor of what you think should be. It means trusting that the same intelligence that grew you from a single cell into this miraculous complexity you call your body knows how to guide your life toward experiences that serve your highest good, even when you cannot understand the larger pattern. This trust is not passive resignation, but active participation in the cosmic dance. Like a skilled dancer who follows the music rather than imposing arbitrary movements, you can learn to move with life's rhythms while still expressing your unique creativity and purpose. You become a collaborator with existence rather than its opponent, a conscious participant in the Tao's endless creativity. As you prepare to cross the threshold into sleep, imagine yourself as a leaf falling gently from an autumn tree. There is no resistance in this falling, no struggle against gravity's pull. The leaf simply surrenders to the natural forces that carry it, trusting completely in the process that has guided countless leaves before it. In this surrender, there is perfect grace, perfect timing, perfect alignment with the way things naturally unfold. Your consciousness, like that falling leaf, can release its grip on the day's experiences and trust the natural process that carries awareness into the restorative depths of sleep. Just as the leaf doesn't worry about where it will land or how long it will rest upon the earth, you can let go of all concern about tomorrow's challenges or yesterday's regrets and simply allow yourself to be carried by forces far wiser than your personal will. Feel how the darkness that approaches is not empty but full, pregnant with possibility, rich with the potential for healing and renewal. In sleep, your conscious mind releases its vigilant control and allows deeper layers of intelligence to work their restoration. Dreams may come and go like clouds across the night sky, but beneath them lies the vast stillness, where your deepest being rests in perfect peace. This stillness is your true home, the place you return to each night and the place you never actually leave, even in the midst of daily activity. It is the silence from which all sounds arise, the emptiness from which all forms emerge, the peace that surpasses understanding because it exists prior to all thinking. Resting in this stillness, you remember who you truly are, beneath all the roles you play and stories you tell about yourself. Let your breathing become so gentle now that it merges with the breath of the universe itself. Feel how each exhale releases whatever the day has asked you to carry: tensions, worries, unfinished tasks, emotional residues from interactions with others. Each inhale draws in the peace that is always available, the clarity that exists beneath mental confusion, the love that flows through all existence like an underground river, feeding every life. In this state of profound relaxation, the artificial boundaries between self and world begin to dissolve. You are not separate from the night sky that arches overhead, not distinct from the earth that supports your resting body, not different from the cosmic breath that inhales and exhales galaxies like morning mist. You are the universe, dreaming of being you, consciousness playing at being individual while remaining forever unified. The ancient Taoists understood that sleep is not merely rest for the body, but a return to the source, a nightly remembering of your essential nature. In dreams, the usual laws of logic and causation relax their grip, allowing deeper wisdom to express itself through symbols and stories that speak directly to the heart. But even deeper than dreams lies the profound rest, where awareness merges completely with the Tao, from which it was never actually separate. As you drift toward this sacred threshold, carry with you the gentle understanding that you are perfectly held, completely safe, eternally loved by the very fabric of existence itself. The Tao that moves through the ancient pines still moves through your breathing. The wisdom that guided the old masters still guides your heart. The peace they discovered in mountain solitude is available to you in this very moment. You need not strive to be worthy of this peace or work to earn this love. They are your birthright, as natural as the circulation of your blood, as automatic as the regeneration of your cells. You are not a stranger in the universe, but its most intimate expression. Not a visitor to this earth, but its temporary flowering into consciousness. Allow every muscle in your body to release now, starting from the crown of your head and flowing like warm honey down through your face, your neck, your shoulders. Feel your arms becoming heavy and loose, your chest expanding and contracting with effortless rhythm. Let your back settle completely into the support beneath you, your hips releasing all tension, your legs becoming like liquid flowing into the ground. Your thoughts, too, can settle like leaves falling to forest floor, each one finding its natural resting place without your needing to arrange or organize them. Let your mind become like a clear pool reflecting the sky, so still that even the smallest ripple is perfectly visible, so transparent that light passes through without obstruction. In this profound stillness, you touch the same source that the ancient sages discovered in their deepest meditations. You taste the same peace that guided Lao Tzu's words and inspired Zhuangzi's stories. You rest in the same Tao that flows through every being, every breath, every moment of existence across all time and space. Sleep comes now not as an interruption of consciousness, but as its deepest expression, not as a departure from life, but as an entry into its most fundamental nature. You are not falling asleep, but falling awake into the vast awareness that dreaming and waking equally. You are not losing consciousness, but finding the consciousness that was never limited to waking states. Flow now, dear friend, into the gentle current that carries all beings home to themselves. Trust the ancient river of sleep that has carried humanity's rest for countless generations. Release into the darkness that is not the absence of light, but light so complete that it need not shine. Merge with the silence that is not the absence of sound, but sound so pure that all noise dissolves within it. The way that cannot be spoken cradles you in its wordless embrace. The Tao that has no name whispers your true name in the language of dreams. Rest now in the knowing that has no thoughts, the being that needs no becoming, the home that requires no journey because you have never actually left it. In perfect trust, in complete surrender, in the ultimate simplicity of just being exactly what you are in this moment, let consciousness flow into its source like a river returning to the sea, carrying all our journey's wisdom into the depths, where insight becomes understanding, where understanding becomes embodiment, where embodiment becomes the effortless expression of the eternal Tao that you have always been and will always be. Sleep now, dear traveler. Sleep deeply. Sleep peacefully. Sleep in the perfect harmony of one who has remembered their way home to the heart of existence itself.